the beauty is in bringing lots of things together, and the miracle happens when you're not really just focusing on one thing. You're
Right.
utilizing every lens you can practically think of,
Yes.
starting with traditional lenses as the foundation and building block to everything, the
Yes.
wisdom in traditional medicine, and then that wisdom is going and gathering information from a science, knowledge, intellectual perspective. Then you're
Mm.
applying logic and common sense, what I call musical intuition, and then
Mm.
most of all, you're doing things with the will and the desire to bring about healing,
Mm.
and pouring your heart and soul in, and knowing that love is the great healer. And one of the
Yes.
big paradigm shifts in the medicine I've developed is that love is at the foundation of healing. And we
Mm.
work in a model. When you start thinking about how is the model we work with broken, it's basically starts with a concept of fear. Fear,
Mm.
fear, fear. You have a system set up for doctors that can't deviate at all. They have to practice a very strict standard of care. And then you have patients often making decisions based in fear as well. So right off the
Mm.
bat, you have
Mm.
to start with a concept of healing. And then
Mm.
again, music, everything about the unitive model is music, so you almost have to study
Mm.
music to study medicine, in my opinion.
Yes.
And if you understand traditional Chinese medicine, the
Yes.
symbol of medicine, of herbal medicine, is identical to the symbol of music, other than
Mm.
the herbal medicine is the identical symbol, but then a grass hat is put on top of the symbol to
Oh,
distinguish herbal medicine, because in
okay.
ancient Taoism, they taught that music and herbs were essential medicines for healing, and they were seen
Mm.
as the pathway to harmonizing the body, mind, and spirit. So,
Yes.
and so, and if doing a talk on neurological health, and I'll start out by
Yes.
saying that they did a review, a systematic review of all interventions that
Right.
were being used to treat neurological health, dementia, and Alzheimer's.
Mm.
9 different interventions were looked at, and
Mm.
by far, music blew everything else away. Matter of fact,
Really?
every approved drug right now, the
Oh.
Cochrane just did a review of all medicines being used to treat Alzheimer's. They're
Yes.
all complete failures.
Oh.
The complete
Well,
failures.
they well
They
they
just did a big review.
well, this has been a
So
fool's errand chasing amyloid plaques.
yeah, I mean, it's so complex. That's the beauty
Right.
of one of the big differences of herbal medicine as being at the root system of medicine, is that it's almost endless in the way that we can unfold in a harmonious way. It basically plays music in our body,
Mm. Mm.
and is really regulating all kinds of molecular pathways, all kinds of cellular
Mm.
pathways. We can look through organ system. We can look. So the language that's been appropriated for drug medicine is
Right.
absolutely not appropriate for herbal medicine. So right off
Mm.
the bat,
Anti this, anti that.
yeah, anti this, anti that, very, very linear way of thinking. And the most beautiful thing is that when we ingest herbal medicine and plants into our body, there is a bathing effect in our gut that takes place. And what
Mm.
constitutes the real medicine is never in the plant, and it's not in our
Mm.
body. It's a new kind of nanomedicine that's created in our gut through them swimming together and
Mm.
working together to create the healing medicine that enters. But most of the time, it's gentle. And
Mm.
we got this concept that medicine should always be heroic. And really good medicine is really gentle and is only doing, I'd say, one of three things. If you really want to look at and say, I want
Yes.
to be holistic, there's only three
Yes.
things you really want to be doing. How
Mm.
can I ultimately build robustness in the body across all networks, all pathways, and all systems?
Mm.
Two, how do I create better efficiency in the
Right.
body? And three, how do we help the body to auto-regulate like it's designed to do? Can we
Mm.
support that process without
Yes.
telling it what it needs and doesn't need? So
Mm.
that's really herbal medicine. Now, herbs and herb compounds and all of that can be manipulated to be thought of in a drug-like way. I mean, that's what we've done to herbs over the past 100 years. We've tried to synthesize compounds,
Right.
isolated compounds, mostly because that's how we can make drugs. But
Right.
but even without that, even people in our natural world are always synthesizing out compounds. I mean, urothenin A, whether it be
Right.
berberine, whether it be
Right.
curcumin, EGCG. Now we're all looking at things through
Yep.
the isolates when
Right.
even in any single herb, there's a symphony of compounds working together. And so
Mm. Well,
and it doesn't mean we can't isolate things and
right.
use them when necessary in a heroic way. The
Right.
beauty of what I do in unitive medicine and Madiri medicine is that, like Ben Franklin says, a place for everything, everything in its place. We're
Yeah.
not saying no to anything, but
Right.
everything has to fit together like a beautiful puzzle. And
Yes.
and drugs have to make sense. And often when you prepare people and you optimize health in them, if there's
Right.
any intervention they need in a drug like way, it's very
Yes.
minimal in comparison because it's not doing all the lifting
Mm.
you're asking it to do. It's playing a
Right.
little bit of a role, and it works so beautifully with herbal medicine.
Right. When you were last on the show in November, you described it beautifully as this molecular dance that happens as the herbs travel through the body, especially the lower gut. That there's this, and that it's this dance between the body and the plant that makes the magic happen, not a single compound in the
Mhm.
plant.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so when we're looking at how do we can implement, I think of six different toolboxes. So modern
Okay.
medicine is a toolbox,
Sure.
and but we don't apply it in the standard of care manner anymore. We apply it in a new way. So we don't
Mm,
think in terms of the same way. So the
right.
other five toolboxes are going to be herbal or botanical medicine, which I call the
Right.
soul of medicine,
Yes.
supplemental nutritional medicine, and
Yes.
then food as medicine, which I just finished a book on food and cancer and
Mm,
longevity that's I
mm.
submitted on Friday to the publisher, and
Oh,
then
wonderful.
four, lifestyle as medicine, and
Yes.
five, spiritual care as medicine, which is interwoven in all of what we're doing from beginning to end with people. And
Oh,
that can
wonderful.
even mean like how the practitioner patient relationship unfolds. That's all part of
Right.
healing.
Yes.
The Joseph Buchanan was considered the greatest of all eclectic physicians, believe it or not.
Mm,
He's not a
mm,
His name isn't well known, but he ran the Eclectic Journal from 1850 to 1860, and then Scudder
mm,
took over in
mm,
1860. He ran the school. He was the big wig, and he was highly respected. But
mm.
he also was a little bit of a clairvoyant, a kind of a little thinker outside of the box. And so
Okay.
he applied a concept of mesmerism to
Yes.
botanical
Yes.
medicine, and that he prayed the will of the plant to be healing to the patient as well.
Oh, wow.
so it's
Mm,
like stuff like that is really
mm,
really important. And if you study medicine since the beginning of time, herbal medicine, I can't even think of a culture that didn't include prayer along with giving people herbs. Music was also a
mm,
part,
mm,
prayer and touch. So people are
mm,
always being prayed over, touched. Often music is being played, and then herbs are being given. So this is kind of
mm.
the ancient way that we heal. And I always say that whatever we discover in modern medicine should complement what's beautiful about medicine, rather
Yeah.
than throw the old medicine out the window and say we got something new and better. That's not the way we should do it.
Right.
And
Right.
that's been a big problem. Even when it comes to pharmaceuticals, sometimes they come with a real expensive pharmaceutical and they want everyone to be using it, and yet the older way of treating things was more
Right.
effective and better.
Mm.
Like all of
So,
a sudden, they don't use, you don't see anyone using Digitalis or Digoxin or Lanoxin anymore. They think
right.
that they think it's not, they have all these other ways of treating things. And yes, it was
Yes.
misused. It was used it was thought of more in an acute setting at a high dose, which has toxicity. But actually, there's tremendous research on using it in a fraction of that dosage for
Mm,
elderly people with congestive heart failure, using a very
mm,
low dosage of that. And
mm.
other repurposed things like colchicine can also be utilized for many other things besides gout. And these plant alkaloids are being forgotten in way of the some of the newer medicines, which are more toxic and actually less effective.
Right, right. Now, you've gone pretty deep, and you're one of the leading, actually, I would say you're the leading herbalist in the world related to cancer care, and you've published the definitive work on the subject. It's an amazing book. What brought you, what was your interest in that? Why did you go so deep and achieve such a high level of mastery in cancer care?
Well, I think probably the biggest reason was working with a cancer patient for the first time.
Hmm.
And that's people can read about the story. I tell the story a lot, but it was a woman in her 30s with breast cancer named
Hmm.
Sinclair Williams, and she was incredibly beautiful, like physically and in every way. Her
Hmm.
spirit was beautiful, and I worked as hard as I could to help her. And everything I saw that was being done back then, I mean, they did more butchery back then, complete chest wall,
Hmm.
everything,
Hmm.
radiated the whole chest wall. They only back then it was like CMF was the chemo of choice, methotrexate, Cytoxan,
Right.
and 5-FU back in the day, and nothing helped her. Nothing helped,
Hmm.
and I did what I could to
Hmm.
support her, but I didn't know a whole lot about cancer, but we changed her name. My clinic changed her name, and from Sinclair to St. Clair because we just thought she was so.
I
I know,
love that.
I know. So,
Love
so
that.
they would say St. Clair is here to see you, Donnie. And so she right before she passed, she finished this ring that I wear on my finger and never took it off.
Oh,
And her parents brought it to me a couple days after she passed and said Sinclair felt like she just had to finish this ring before she
oh,
died. And I said, wow. I said somebody was thinking about me. That's how meaningful our relationship got and
oh,
how profoundly beautiful because I kind of
wonderful.
crave intimacy and purpose. And so
Mm,
all of a sudden I said, for Sinclair, I've got to basically devote myself to learn everything I can about cancer. And
mm,
one of the things that I learn is that you can be great at herbal medicine and great at a lot of things, but if people are making choices that are not useful in the allopathic world in cancer, they're
right,
not going to get better.
right.
So in Mediri Care, we take a deep dive into understanding every option there is on the table. And people just say I don't want to do chemotherapy. People don't realize there is no chemotherapy is it's like I don't like food. It's like every drug is different from the other. It's a completely different
Right,
mechanism. There's
right.
all kinds of ways of mixing it, dosing it differently, and optimizing it.
Mm,
So you can't just make blanket statements. Have to go in. Well,
right.
what are you talking about when? And then you can nowadays you can test through numerous ways the sensitivity of tumor cells to different drugs. You
Right.
can you can do it through
Yes.
molecular profiling. You can do it through
Yes.
live cell analysis through like a Negroni or a Weisenthal. You can also then look at toxicity of drugs by how they're metabolized and
Mm,
how what people might have in relationship to dosaging, because often you may
right.
get a very effective drug, but the body doesn't have the capacity to detoxify it, and so a quote unquote typical dosage could kill somebody. And then,
Mm,
there's all kinds of things. They do everything wrong when it comes to cancer practically. They give drugs
right.
like Neulasta and Neupogen that basically boost neutrophils, which actually help proliferate cancer and
Mm,
lower lymphocyte production, which are the cells that you want to be up.
right.
Like there's so many things. Putting
Wow.
people on proton pump inhibitors on immunotherapy basically
Oh,
negates their benefits. Putting people
right.
on steroids and antibiotics negate benefits or weaken the
Mm,
benefits. Like, they've got good tools. They're just using
right.
them wrong, unfortunately.
Right. You know, you and I have been practicing for a while. What have you observed, Donnie, in terms of attitudes of people being open to this more unitive approach as compared to more of a conventional all drugs all the time approach?
Well, I mean, I have a limited exposure because people that are, seeking
Right,
the
right,
work we
right.
do, we don't
That's right.
we don't take a single patient until, we have what's called a an introductory to Mediri care paper that
Mm,
I've written. So
mm,
patients aren't really allowed to even become patients until they've read that,
mm,
and kind of understand what we do. Because sometimes people
mm.
say, "Oh, go see Mediri, go see Donnie," and they have
Right.
no idea what that means. They have no idea.
Oh,
So
okay.
so when people call up, they have to go to my DonnieYance.com and
Mm-hmm.
read everything they can there. Go to the Mediri site, look at do the intake, the intro to patient care letter that we put together. So by that time, they usually have a great understanding and
Yes.
are kind of like on board with what we do, pretty much. And so,
Mm,
but
mm-hmm.
it's not like we're turning down as many people, as we're
Yeah,
accepting because they're just not good fits for that. Because it's
right.
a relationship. To me, everything is
Yes.
like, we have to enter relationship. When you look at the diagnostics we use, well,
Yes.
there's basically three different, and this applies to neurological health too. When I do the talk, I will go through
Right.
the three different lenses to apply. One I
Mm,
call a host lens, two I call a microenvironment lens, and three I call a disease lens. So the
mm,
host lens is really forget about, cancer, neurological disease. Let's really figure everything we can to know about you
mm.
constitutionally, symptom wise, everything. Your
Right.
habits, your sleeping habits, your eating, everything we can about you. The second,
Mm,
so that's a very relationship orientated. You've got to talk to people, listen to people, hear their narrative, digest all of that. And it's not super linear. And
right.
then the second lens we use is all based on laboratory analysis. So
Mm,
every kind of
okay.
lab test we can look at that both is appropriate to uh, the disease they have, but also appropriate to the host. So
Right.
the thought is that whatever abnormalities we see are less than optimal levels we see certain things in, we're
Mm,
going to move that in a way that optimizes the health of the host and also can be a less favorable environment to the disease, namely cancer. Then you can also analyze it through the cancer lens because cancer has to hijack the microenvironment to do any
yes.
harm in people.
The
So we can
TME.
see, so and then the third lens we do is all right, yes, I know you have cancer, but the way cancer is thought of, I have pancreatic cancer, I have breast cancer, I have prostate
Right.
cancer, I have brain cancer, lung cancer. I
Mm-hmm.
said, well, that's just the location of your cancer. It really doesn't tell us
Mm,
anything about the characteristics or the proliferative factors of your cancer or what
mm,
it feeds on, what invasive characteristics does it have, what
right.
potentially stem cell strength it may have. Does it hold certain
Mm,
biomarkers that say, you've got this strong stem cell population going, so whatever we do on the surface isn't going to really hold because we know
right.
there's an intelligence in your cancer that needs to be addressed. For example, chemotherapy doesn't get rid of cancer stem cells and get rid of
Right.
the cancer cells, but not the stem cells. So we look
Right.
at through all these lenses. You're taking that, and then you're spiraling like a hermeneutic approach. It's like you're
Yes.
taking all these parts, but you're also seeing how they feed back to the whole. And with the objective, the only objective in the end is, am I helping you live a higher quality of life? And am I helping you live a longer life? It's not
Mm,
always disease eradication.
right.
And people don't realize, like, say
That's a great point.
somebody comes with early Alzheimer's or dementia, I'm not expecting them to get them better. But what I am
Mm-hmm.
expecting to do is maybe halt their progression because
Mm,
everything is only going to get worse the older you get. So even
right.
if you stabilize disease in someone, you're way ahead of the game.
Yes. Yes. That's
And that
excellent.
doesn't mean you can't see improvement in certain cases,
Right.
but But
Right.
people don't realize is that stability is improvement in, when you're working with an elderly population, for example,
Yes.
and meanwhile you can do lots of other things to make their quality of life healthier too. It's like that's why I said that's
Yes.
my objective is I'm not seeing you as a disease. I'm seeing like all the different ways that we can optimize your health and actually
Mm.
make you extremely healthy. I mean, the thing I am most proud about is that, half my patients have worked with me over 25, 30 years. That's the good
Oh,
news.
wonderful.
So half mine. So it's really hard for me to take new people. But
Yes.
the bad news to that is that they're all like I have half my practice is geriatric medicine now. And so
Oh.
I have learned a lot about helping people that are, approaching 100 years old or going over
Mm.
100 even,
Mm.
and that they all, I'm not going to say all, but the majority of them, even if I
Right.
was doing everything right, develop spinal stenosis,
Mm.
which has, limits their mobility,
Right.
then often these bladder issues and just things
Yes.
that I wasn't as aware of when I first started. So now
Mm.
I'm taking my patients that are, maybe my age or older and saying, we've got to make sure we keep your spine as healthy as possible. We've got to make
Okay.
sure we, keep certain things this way because I can keep your brain healthy, your heart healthy,
Yes.
but this is another piece of your health that I kind of didn't pay as much attention to. And so I've learned a lot about taking care of very elderly people and what you can do to
Yes.
help them.
That's excellent. For folks just joining us, I am speaking with Donnie Yance, who is a master herbalist, and he is one of our faculty, which we're going to talk about in just a moment for this year's seventh annual Herbal Summer School. He is the founder and president of Medairi Center and Academy, president of Natura Health Products at DonnieYance.com and MedairiCenter.org. And so, Donnie, we are coming up in just a couple of weeks to our Herbal Summer School. And we are just honored to have you with us this year for our seventh annual. And joined also by my colleague and friend Charlotte Keikel, Dustin Strong, Donnie Yentz, going to be speaking about units of medicine and neurological health. So just tell us a little bit about what folks are going to learn in the symposium from you.
Sure. So uh, I'll probably break it down into a couple different areas. First will be an introductory to terminology that I think is really important for people to have a grasp of how we understand things. Like I said, our language is very wrong. Some
Right.
concepts around bioregulatory medicine, governing principles, like how you start to think about things. And
Mm.
then we'll go into a little bit about the different lenses, like what's a host diagnosis when it comes to neurological health? What kind of lab tests do we want to look at? What risk factors are there? And then
Mm.
we'll go into the aspects like amyloid plaque, tau protein,
Mhm.
some of the apolipoprotein, E4, some of the
Right.
precursors to that, and look at it through that lens. So that's what we'll do, and then we'll explore a little bit of all the toolboxes, but I won't have enough time to do everything. So there will be a big
Hmm.
focus on how to utilize herbal medicine in relationship
Great.
to this. So that will be omnipresent. But things
Sure.
like just things like hormesis and hermeneutics, these terms that I think are really
Mm.
foundational to everything. Humble
Yes.
medicine, gentle medicine as opposed slow medicine as opposed to
Yes.
heroic medicine.
Right.
I have a time, we were all living in this world with AI. I have my new
Yes.
term called DPI, which is divine plant intelligence.
Oh,
So,
wonderful.
the
I love
wisdom of
that.
the wisdom of
Yes,
nature,
I love that.
participatory medicine, and then you'll love it because it's all, I get into musical concepts, rhythm,
Mm. Mm.
harmony, listening. To be a great musician
Yes.
it's kind of a dualistic understanding of listening. You
Right.
need to be listening to, particularly in jazz, to your fellow
The other
musicians that you're
musicians. Yep.
playing music with and working off of them. You also need to be listening to your own being, and that
Mm.
being also has to, just like in medicine, there is
Yes.
a mind component. We study music, we learn music, we practice music, but
Yes.
in the end, when you perform music, you're not thinking anymore, you're feeling. And so you're feeling in
Yes.
your heart. So medicine is a very beautiful synergy of heart and mind, just like
Mm.
music is. Listening to yourself, listening to your patient, and it's very
Yes.
spontaneous too. Like music, everything's happening and moving like this. So there's nothing
Mm.
stagnant about music. There's nothing
Right.
stagnant about how you work with people. Like I just saw a patient, like I said, over 30 years. I saw a breast cancer patient on
Hmm.
Thursday last week. You know what? A file might be about this thick I have a patient.
That's,
I have
yeah.
9
Yep.
files on her that are this
Oh,
thick.
wow.
So
Wow.
9 files going back 30 years. So it's
Yeah,
like there's nothing stagnant about what I do. Well, what did you do? What are you
that's
doing
right.
to keep her healthy? Just take the
Mm.
journey and look from the beginning all the way through to now. I'm
Yes.
constantly tweaking things, changing things up, and that's happening, through again her life story, what's happening, her symptom presentation,
Mm.
how her blood work's looking, and
Right.
all of that, all of those factors, and maybe what's even around you. What kind of world do you live in? Do you
Yes.
live in a city? Do you live out in the country? It's like,
Yes.
all of these things play a role in understanding. So yeah, there'll be a lot of I probably even can talk about things like musical analogies like Stravinsky.
Mm.
I love to use the Rite of Spring as a
Oh,
good example
beautiful.
because there's polyrhythms, there's poly melodies,
Yes.
there's all kinds of things going on in that music,
Yes.
and that you can kind of break down and
Yes.
then deconstruct and then reconstruct to make it the whole of what it is. So to
Mm.
me, when I put all my pieces together, it's like all of those things converging together. They're all looking through different lenses, doing different pieces of the puzzle, but when they
Right.
come together, they're like a beautiful piece of music.
Well, I love the musical perspective on healing, and I love the love as medicine, the highest
Mhm.
medicine. I love that. So please join us in just a couple of weeks. It's going to be Herbal Summer School 2026 with myself, Charlotte Keichel, Donnie Yance, who's with us today, and Dustin Strong. Coming up August 14th and 15th. That is a Friday, Saturday. It's an online symposium. And with our appreciation, use your discount code, podcast discount code MWM10, and you'll learn a complete presentation with Donnie Yance on unitive medicine and neurological health. And you're going to learn some very practical things that you can use to help yourself, your family, and your patients. Donnie, finally, just tell folks a little bit about. I'm just going to put these in the chat. This is DonnieYance.com, and what will folks find here?
Uh, a, a boatload of information. I pour my
Yeah.
heart and soul into everything. Every week I post a blog, and
Oh,
the
that's
blogs,
great.
there's all different sections. So there's spiritual, there's a lot on spirituality, there's a section on herbal
Wonderful.
medicine, food as medicine, cancer, longevity, graceful aging. So in some weeks, you got to hang in there. Some weeks they're kind of very down to earth, maybe
Yes.
talking about a food, and other times they can be quite technical. I just
Mm.
did one on curcumin and prostate cancer, and
Mm.
and you know it's just filled with data and information,
Great.
and so there's something in it for everyone, basically. So
That's
just
great.
keep. It's really easy
Wonderful.
to do the search engine. It's really easy. You can anything that you want to, any of the blog posts that you want to create a PDF of and have, you can do that as
Okay.
well.
Great.
And so for sure,
And
yeah, I just
and
did
then
this.
here's MadeiriCenter.org, and
Mhm.
this is the clinic and school.
Yeah, the clinic.
Oh,
There's the Madeira Academy, we call it. And so
yes.
we have students from all over the world, and we have 6 courses presently. And
Wonderful.
then we have patient care, and we
Yes.
have a pretty robust apothecary. So we do a lot of custom
Yes.
herbal compounding, both with teas, with tinctures, with powdered extracts as
Mm.
well. We make a lot of custom formulas. We also have a lot of stock formulas in the clinic.
Mm.
We have a lot of topical preparations that we do. We have suppositories that we make in the clinic. So
Hmm.
we have a pretty nice setup of our
Excellent.
clinic for compounding, and we
And
compound
then,
for other practitioners too.
hmm and then I also put in the chat, you'll see one of Donnie's albums here, Heaven Awaits. I love that title. And you'll have the link there in the chat. And let me see, is this just taking a
Yeah,
minute
there's
to?
Heaven Awaits and there's Cosmic Force is the newer one. So Heaven
Oh,
Awaits
good.
is Cosmic Force is the newest album, and the third album I'm working on, I right now I call it The Pilgrim.
Oh,
So that's the
wonderful.
name. So
Wonderful.
it's kind of like seeing your life as a pilgrimage, and so yeah,
Yes,
so that's
that's great. And
what
then
you
Donnie has written the definitive work on herbal medicine and cancer. It's a magnificent book. I mean, there's really nothing like it in the world. And his earlier book, which is also a major text in the field, is on adaptogens in medical herbalism.
actually
So
it's the
thank.
other way around. The Adaptogens is the new book, and then
Oh, this
the
is the new
book.
book. Sorry. Okay,
Yeah,
I
so
had that. I had
the
that wrong.
newest book that will probably be out in about 6 months, which is just had to shrink it down from 600 pages to 420 for the publisher, which I was
Okay,
with some help. I
sure.
was able to do that. Now I'm having to shrink down the neurological presentation for your.
Oh, okay.
That's what I have to work on. But
Sure.
anyway, it's called the Mediri method actually, and it's
Oh, excellent.
food, food for healing cancer, food for cancer and longevity, basically
Mm,
what it's on. But it's called the Mediri method. So the first part of the whole thing is all about the philosophy of Mediri care as it applies to food. So it's going to be really
mm,
interesting. Like all the different lenses you can use to understand how should I be eating, so
mm.
it's like there isn't any one way to think of, and
Yes.
and then I kind of, it's a highly researched book. It originally had 1,800 citations. When I shrunk it down,
Mm.
it's about 1,300 now. So, and it's a book
Only
only on, it's a book on food, so in cancer.
only
So
1,300.
yeah,
Well, I
and it's got
had,
150 diagrams and images and about 60 recipes, and
wow.
some of my Italian recipes are in there. So you'll,
Oh, fabulous.
yeah,
Fabulous. Well, thank you, Donnie.
you're
That's
welcome.
wonderful. I appreciate that. And thanks for being with us today. Look
You're
forward to
welcome.
another
Thank you.
successful symposium. Donnie and I spoke at the same herbal conference recently, and I thankfully wasn't teaching when he was teaching. Well, two of them were, but I at least got to hear one of his presentations. Absolutely brilliant. And you're going to love what you learned from him in this year's Herbal Summer School. Donnie Yance, you are a treasure. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Excellent. Well, you have all the links in the chat and on our watch page. And now it's my honor to introduce our second guest today. His first time on the show. We're really honored to have him here today. And this is Dr. Richard Bosshart. And many of you, like me, like millions of people, actually, were first exposed to Dr. Bosshart in his very consequential and impactful appearance on the Tucker Carlson show. Me and millions of other people first were exposed to Dr. Bosshart at that time, although he was very actively involved with his profession before that. He is a retired plastic surgeon, retired U.S. Navy commander, and an author of a book, The Making of a Plastic Surgeon. He has a very active and wonderful Substack, richardbosshartmd.substack.com. I'm just going to read you a little bit about Dr. Bosshart. He is a board certified plastic surgeon in Florida with over 45 years of experience. He graduated from the University of Miami Miller School of Medicine in 1978 and trained under D. Ralph Millard Jr. As a commander in the U.S. Navy, he took part in the rescue of Vietnamese boat people and in operations during the Iranian hostage crisis, later serving as a general surgeon in Okinawa. In 1989, he became Lake County's first plastic surgeon. At his plastic surgery practice, he focused on aesthetic and reconstructive surgery, skin cancer removal, and has led overseas missions repairing cleft lips and palates in Philippines, Guatemala, and Peru. He was recognized as a top Florida doctor, and as I said, well known for his humanitarian work. So please, let's give a warm Mondays with Michael welcome to Dr. Richard Bosshart. Richard, thank you so much for being with us today, Rick.
Thank you for having me, Michael. I'm very pleased to be here.
Yeah, honored to have you. And so I read just a brief biographical sketch, but you've become more broadly known outside of your very successful career as a surgeon for some of your opinions and your courageous stances on what you've observed, have been a physician for over 45 years, of trends you've been noticing and speaking out about that. So if you just give us a little bit of an arc of your career and how you came to be doing the writing and advocacy that you're doing now.
Okay, let's see. How far back do I go?
Whatever you
Actually,
like.
my so-called notoriety probably only dates back a few years.
Yeah.
I have been writing for many years. I'm a lifelong reader,
Hmm.
and they say that a lot of people that read a lot eventually decided to take their shot at trying to write a few things.
Yes.
And I ended up
Yes.
writing a weekly medical column for the Orlando Sentinel for over 25 years.
Right.
Um, I've written a number of other things along the way. More recently, I guess the thing that got me on the radar and the reason why you're even aware of me and invited me very nicely and kindly, I might say, and invited me onto your show is because of what's happened since about 2018. Um, I don't know how much background you would like, how much, I didn't even ask you, how much time do we have this morning, Michael? So I can kind
We
of,
have we typically go about 2 hours, so sometimes we've gone over three, so we're flexible. My main goal is in whatever time you have available, I want you to share all the thoughts you want to share on this very important subject of the current state of modern medicine.
well, let me start with this because of your last guest, who I was very impressed with, by the way. I
He's
don't know,
impressive.
I had not, hadn't heard the name before.
Sure.
I am an allopathic physician, which is to say that I have an MD after my name, and my training was in more classical Hippocratic medicine.
Hmm.
And this is not in any way to denigrate other forms of medicine, what's collectively known as alternative medicine. I have to say I've become a lot more open to concepts that I was not that open to in the past.
Hmm.
And if nothing else, the past few years have really shaken my faith in
Hmm.
traditional organized medicine because of what I've seen with a number of areas of medicine. The
Right.
COVID pandemic was obviously a big one,
Yep.
uh, but other things as well. So I was going along in my practice. I've been a plastic surgeon for going on 36 years, total of about 45 years in surgery itself.
Wow.
And
Rick, I forgot. Are you still practicing?
I retired a year and a half ago.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
So I've joined I've joined the ranks of those people that wake up in the morning with nothing to do, and at the end of the day, they haven't finished half of it. That's what
That's
I heard, and it's
great.
absolutely true. Um, so
Yes,
I would, I'm not a brilliant person, Michael. I'm fairly intelligent. I had to be to get to where I am, and
for
I
sure.
think I'm teachable. I also try to pay attention. I try to keep my mind open.
Hmm.
But medicine is a pretty demanding profession.
Yes.
It requires a lot of you in energy and time, and then you have other things calling your attention and time, such as family. You have to spend
Hmm.
time with your family. Most people have other interests besides that their profession, and I like that.
Yes.
Um, so there wasn't much time to really be getting involved in things like politics
Hmm.
and cultural issues and whatnot.
Right.
And so 2018, for some silly reason, I picked up my throwaway quarterly bulletin from the American College of Surgeons that I rarely
Right.
ever read, and I read through a transcript of a lecture
Hmm.
by a pediatrician who was invited to be the keynote speaker at the annual clinical congress of the American College of Surgeons.
Hmm.
This individual had a lecture that was titled "A Pathway to diversity, excellence, and inclusion.
Hmm.
This was, this was before DEI became really a
Right.
buzzword, if you will.
Yes. Yes.
And it caught my attention. I read the lecture, and I went through it once. I went through it a second time, and it occurred to me that nowhere in the lecture was excellence mentioned once. Diversity inclusion was the entire topic, and excellence wasn't even touched on.
Wow.
And so I wrote a commentary.
Hmm.
I sat down, wrote what amounted to about a 2-page commentary that was published in the
Hmm.
subsequent issue of the bulletin. And 3 other surgeons also commented. Their comments amounted to a paragraph. Mine was literally, several paragraphs.
And were they sort of simpatico with what you were saying?
All 4 of us agreed. We really
Oh,
felt that placing an emphasis on diversity and inclusion over excellence in medicine is a mistake.
right.
You cannot take a profession like medicine and not place excellence as a primary goal
Yes.
for educating and for the practice of medicine.
Right.
And so we expressed concern about this, and nothing
Hmm.
came of it. You can put these things in, and there was
Sure.
no movement started or anything like that.
Right. Right.
And nothing much happened until 2020. And in 2020, of course, we had 2 major upheavals in this country. The first, of course, was COVID.
Yes.
Country was locked down. My practice was closed for nearly 6 weeks,
Oh.
except to emergencies, which unfortunately, according to my family, gave me too much time to get online and get myself
Okay.
really, really, really outraged.
So how
Um,
many kids and grandkids at this point, Rick?
I've got three grown children and 7 grandchildren.
Wow. Well done.
Oh yeah, they're they're
That's great.
they're the joy of my life. My wife and I look
Wonderful.
back on our 45 years this
Oh,
year, and
wow.
are very
Happy anniversary.
blessed.
That's
So
wonderful.
yeah, my practice was great, but my family life eclipses that dramatically.
Yes. Well, well done.
But the COVID was bad enough, but then they had the George Floyd incident, killing, if you
Yeah.
will, whatever people choose to describe it, and
Yeah. Overdose.
uh, the country went crazy. I mean, it literally went
Yep.
crazy. All of a sudden, everything was bad. The USA was bad. Our culture was
Mm.
bad. We were all racists.
Mm.
Um, we needed radical, change in this country. And what happened was the American College of Surgeons, that I have been a fellow in for over 30 years,
Right.
the premier organization representing surgery,
Right.
came out with a they assembled, I should say, a task force to address racism in surgery.
Mm.
And the question wasn't whether there's racism or not in surgery. That was basically uh, accepted as fact, and it was to deal with it. So the
Mm.
the idea was that surgeons are racist, that surgery is racist,
Mm.
and the leadership even called the American College of Surgeons itself a racist organization. Um,
Wow.
I took exception to this. I'm not a
Wow.
racist. I was not raised to believe that any uh, group of people is better or worse than any other group of people.
Right.
And so the task force came out with the recommendations in November of 2020.
Mm.
Uh, and they were assembled around, George Floyd was, I believe, in May or June. The
Right.
task force assembled in July, and the recommendations came out in November.
Mm.
And it was basically a instruction manual on how to install critical race theory into an organization. I mean, they added
Wow.
anti-racism to the values of the ACS.
Wow.
They started a new department of diversity in the ACS. They
Mm.
they brought on a clinical director and executive director for this department. They became part of
Mm.
the leadership of the ACS. They
Mm.
began to train surgeons on things like implicit bias, white privilege, things of that
Wow.
sort. And so I wrote a letter to the then president of the ACS. Mind you,
Right.
I'm Rick Bosart. I'm a little plastic surgeon, small fish in a big pond. I'm not an academic. I'm not a high
Sure.
profile person. I've been very happy to have my little practice in Lake County, Florida for
Sure.
all these years. And so I wrote a letter, and I expressed my concerns and said, I don't really agree with the direction of the ACS. And if this continues, I don't see that I can stay as a fellow in the ACS, and I will give up my fellowship before I will accept that this is the direction of my professional organization.
Mm.
And there was no answer to that. There was no
Hmm.
response to that. And so I didn't know what to do next until I decided, well, the ACS website has what they call the communities that they a discussion forum. I'm sure you have
Right.
something like that in your profession where you can
Yeah.
go to an organization and they will have
That's right.
a page where you can put up questions or discussions and debates and things of that sort among the members. That's a way for people to network.
Yes.
And so I put up a post on the communities of the ACS and said, okay,
Is
you're
it, did I
you're
get the
one
right
step
thing
ahead
here?
of me here.
Did I get the right thing here, Rick?
You did
Okay.
indeed. Yeah.
Okay.
And
So here,
so I said, listen, I disagree with this. I don't believe that our organization is racist. I don't believe that surgery is racist. I think that you need to, if you're going to make extraordinary claims, you better have extraordinary evidence to support this. And they did not. And
wow.
this was I guess the nidus, or the stimulus
Yeah.
of a comment thread that began in response to my post.
Oh,
That went on for over 4 months and had over 175 surgeons and a
so these
thousand
are all
comments.
surgeons commenting on your letter.
Exactly.
Great.
It was the most uh, actively commented on post ever in the history of the ACS. In fact, it slowed down. It slowed down the
Wow.
website. It was that active.
Wow.
And a lot of people pushed back against me, but I went through this over time carefully, and 2/3 of the
Wow.
surgeons agreed with me. So
Really?
the 60% of the people that were
Wow.
commenting agreeing with me.
Oh,
And this raised my profile, if you will. It
I'm
brought me
sure.
into the radar. So some of the leadership of the ACS
Yep.
commented as well. And all I said was, show us where the racism is so that we can deal
Right.
with it, but just don't
Yep.
go out telling us we're racist and,
Right.
turning things upside down.
Yep.
During this period, this was in 2021 now,
Okay.
when this thread was running, it was from April to about August of 2021.
Okay.
And during that time in June, the ACS actually hosted a leadership retreat for the leaders of all the surgical societies in the country. There are a lot of
Oh.
different surgical organizations
Oh.
on diversity. They
Wow.
kept telling me we're not doing what is obvious that we're doing. We're not
Mm.
introducing anti-racism, even though that was actually one of the values they adopted.
Right.
And they went and invited as their keynote speaker for that retreat, and none other than Ibrahim X. Kendi,
Oh no.
who published, How to Be an Anti-Racist.
Right.
So it's, the definition of gaslighting, which is to tell you that, what you've
You're
seen with your
crazy.
own eyes is not real.
Yeah.
And this was basically them gaslighting us.
Wow.
So by August, I had pretty much, shot my particular load of
Yeah.
objections and
Right.
was trying to figure out what to do. And the ACS came to me and said, listen, we'd like to meet with you in a Zoom call.
Oh.
And so this Zoom call took place in 2023.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 2022. Sometimes it's hard to keep all these
Sure.
dates straight because it's been going on for years. So 2022, they wanted to bring on their new director of diversity to be
Mm.
part of this Zoom call.
Mm.
And there were 5 of us on the Zoom call. We had a very nice conversation. I voiced my objections as clearly as I could. They voiced their position, which I felt was not. I don't think that they had a good justification for what they were doing.
Yeah.
I had a colleague that I invited to join me, who happened to be a female Black surgeon that I work with here in the community, who supported me wholeheartedly
Mm.
in my position, and I
And
thought it
Rick, I
went
just
very
want.
well. Go
Oh,
ahead,
okay.
Mark.
I'm just going to pause right there. I just want to, because you mentioned Ibram Kendi, who is at least was a professor at Harvard, not surprisingly, the indoctrination camp known as Harvard University. So here's Ibram Kendi quote: "The only remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination." And, quote, "the only remedy to present discrimination is future discrimination." So I just wanted to insert that because you brought him up. and he's a leader in this sort of race, um, this race, stirring up more racism and calling it anti-racism.
Yeah, those are direct quotes, and for people that don't follow these things, Ibram Kennedy is now largely fallen out of favor
Oh,
uh,
okay.
among a lot of people because he acquired or donations came in for his Center for Anti-Racism Research at Boston University.
Right.
And they blew through millions of dollars over the course of 2 or 3 years and didn't have
Oh,
a single piece of original research to show for this. So his center has since shut down, and he
wow.
has left Boston University. And I think he's
Oh,
in Florida now. He's at a different location,
oh, wow.
but you don't hear much from him these days.
Yeah,
Uh,
he was a popular race hustler for a while.
Oh, he really was. He can't even define anti-racism. He uses a circular argument. Anti-racism is
Mm,
doing things that improve anti-racism. That's kind of his
mm,
definition of anti-racism.
mm.
And the most interesting one is if you're claimed to not be a racist, that is a
Right.
racist statement.
All right.
So how do you get
Subconscious
around an
bias.
argument like
Yeah.
that?
Right.
But be that as it may, this Zoom call was, I thought, a really good first step. I thought this was going to lead to some discussions and debate within the
Sure.
organization,
Yes. Yes.
and it might, change the direction a little bit, or at least,
Right.
provide something more than just simply claims without any type of evidence to support them.
Right.
But what happened was a few weeks after that Zoom call, I tried to get on the communities like I had been doing on a regular basis,
Right.
and I couldn't get access. And I
Oh,
tried for a week or two, and I kept getting blocked. I kept thinking, well, maybe there's a glitch in the community's website. And I finally
oh,
went to the general secretary of the ACS and said, because we had communicated, and I had his email, said, "Hey, what's going on? I
right.
can't get on the communities."
Right.
And he said, "Oh, I by this one of these, oh, by the way things." He says, "Oh, by the way, you are permanently blocked from the communities. You cannot access
Oh,
them.
no.
You can't even read them, much
What?
less post on them." And the reason
Oh,
was, and this was interesting. He said
wow.
uh, I was using, I'm not going to be able to get the quote perfect, but it's close enough.
Yeah.
I was continuously using disrespectful language,
Oh,
and I was posting inappropriate things on the communities, which is to say,
oh,
they had said, we don't want any more posts related to this issue. And I
oh,
persisted in asking why we couldn't
right.
post on this issue. And so this
Wow.
led to a permanent ban from access to the communities.
Really?
I couldn't get any kind of personal messages from other
Wow.
members of the ACS. I couldn't send personal messages. And the
Oh,
funny part about this is I couldn't even access the directory. Here I am, I'm a fellow
no.
in good standing, and I couldn't access the directory of my fellow surgeons.
And I just want
So
to confirm something here, Rick. This is after 75% of the comments of other surgeons were in support of your views.
absolutely, yeah, it was about 2/3, but
About
yes,
two
yeah,
thirds.
yeah, well over 50% were very much expressing the same
Wow.
concerns that I was.
Amazing.
So it wasn't like there was this consensus in the ACS that what the leadership
Right.
was
No, of
doing
course.
was the right thing.
Right.
But they couldn't have someone like me uh, doing what I was doing, which was basically destabilizing
Mm,
the process of trying to convert this to a ideological organization, which is really what
right.
they've done.
Right.
One of the worst thing they did, Michael, was this is probably the most uh, call it
Egregious.
odious, call it
Yep.
despicable, call it what you
Right.
will.
Yep.
But they began to push this concept that they call racial concordance. Now, a lot of people aren't aware of what that
Facial
means.
concordance. I've been tracking this subject for a while. I don't know what that is.
Okay. Racial concordance says basically this. It said that you're going to get better care and have better outcome for medical treatment if your doctor is of your same race or ethnicity.
What?
So a black patient will do better with a
That's
black doctor.
crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. And
Mm,
and they, when you ask them, okay, what is your evidence for this? What data do you have to support
right.
this horrible, you know, if, think about this. When you treat an emergency in a hospital, you walk in the ER, you don't have any choice. The
Right.
patient doesn't have any choice in who the doctor's going to be. The
Right.
doctor has no choice in who the patient's going to be. If their
Yes.
first thought is, oh my gosh, if this guy is not the same race or background as mine, I'm not going to get as good a care. So
Hmm.
is there anything you can think of right off the bat that's going to do more to damage or destroy trust between a physician and a patient? Trust that
Right.
has to be established in a relatively short period of time and
Yes.
to a degree where the patient's going to put their life in your hands. Okay.
Right.
And the physician has to feel like this patient is going to follow through with my instructions because I'm working in their best interest to try to do the best I
Yes.
can for them. So
Yes.
it's a horrible concept.
Wow.
And there's one study that is cited repeatedly
Hmm.
about Black babies having better survival if their doctor is Black
What?
than if he's white. And this study has
Ah,
been debunked and disproven. And
hmm.
it's like the phoenix that rises from the ashes. You just simply can't get rid of it. People keep
Wow.
citing it. So the ACS is pushing these things. And they're not only pushing, this is what's interesting because, and I'm sometimes a little bit all over the place because this has
It's all
become
right.
such a huge issue.
It's all right.
But it's not just the adoption of ideology into medicine and surgery that's a problem.
Right.
We have a real problem right now with educating physicians and training physicians. I mean, we have a predicted shortage in the next 10 years of as many as 80,000 physicians in this country, and
Oh, it's a
75%
shortage
a shortage.
of
Uh,
80,000.
80,000 they predict right now, and then
Wow.
there's plenty of references to this from
Wow.
different sources that back in 2000 there was a study that came out that said that in a few years we're going to have 145,000 too many physicians in the USA.
Oh,
And so as a result of that, they froze medical education. They didn't open any more medical schools. They froze
really?
Medicare dollars for graduate medical education.
Wow.
And this was in I've got it right here. Hang on a second here
Sure.
because I want to be correct on my dates. Okay. Let me just read you this quickly because it's more accurate. A report on the future of medical education issued in September 1980 by the Graduate Medical Education National Advisory Committee to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
1980.
1980 predicted an oversupply of 145,000 physicians by the year 2000.
Hmm.
Okay. As a result, pardon me for reading, but
No,
it's
it's
much
fine.
easier than try.
Yeah.
As a result, a self-imposed moratorium among U.S. medical schools followed. Starting in 1981,
Hmm.
medical school enrollment was maintained at approximately 16,000 seats per year,
Hmm.
and no new medical schools were established to avoid training more physicians than the country needed.
Hmm.
In response to the predicted surplus of physicians, Congress also acted to limit federal support for graduate medical education of the Medicare program. The
Hmm.
Balanced Budget Act of 1997 capped the number of Medicare supported residency positions at levels that existed in 1996. Okay.
Wow.
By 2005, they realized this was so far off base because of two things. One is the growth of the population of the US,
Right.
the increasing age, and directly the increasing age, but also indirectly the increase in chronic illnesses and need for medical
Hmm.
services. By 2005, they realized, oh my gosh, this is wrong. We got to fix this. Okay.
Oh,
So
wow.
when they discovered this, they lifted the
25 years later.
moratorium.
Yeah.
They started adding medical schools in
Right.
Florida, my state alone. From 2005 on, they added 8 new medical schools. You can imagine that.
Whoa.
Four
Wow.
four MD schools and four osteopathic schools,
Wow.
trying to catch up.
Hmm.
But the problem is the wheel turns slowly in medicine. To
Right.
take a college student from the year he starts medical school to the end of, say, a surgical residency, okay,
Yes.
that could be a 14-year process.
Hmm.
Okay. My training was 4 years of medical school and 7 years of residency in surgery and
Wow.
plastic surgery. So
Wow.
that's 11 years, not counting
Wow.
my college education. So,
Yeah.
things aren't going to happen very, very quickly.
Right.
And so now the prediction is this is the Association of American Medical Colleges released in 2024. This is according to my society, the American College of Surgeons. It
Sure.
says the report was so clear it was almost brutal. This is a direct quote.
Hmm.
It predicted a shortage of anywhere from 13,000 to 86,000 physicians by 2036. That's a pretty good
Wow.
span, but it just tells you
Yes.
that we have a hard time really establishing what the actual need is.
Hmm.
But of that shortage, 75% will be in surgery. Now, that may
Oh,
not sound like, maybe it's not so bad, but the
wait,
thing is that
75% of the shortage.
the shortage are going to be in surgeons.
Okay.
Now,
Wow.
here's another statistic for you. In the course of the lifetime of the average individual, they have an 80% chance that they're going to have an operation someday.
Hmm.
80% of the population will have to have an operation. Could be a hernia, could be their appendix, could be their tonsil,
Sure.
could be a skin cancer, could be a breast cancer, but they're
Right.
going to need a competent surgeon to take care of them.
Right.
So when you have a shortage like this, and then you start talking about issues like trauma, where it's right now we have a shortage of almost what is it? I believe it's about 1,200 less trauma surgeons in the USA than we need to manage the level of trauma that we have.
Wow.
And that's a pretty
Hmm.
dire situation because
It
trauma,
is.
you can't wait. Okay.
Hmm.
With all due respect to, alternative medicine and those sort of things,
Sure. Sure.
there's no alternative to trauma care other
No, not at
than
all.
really excellent surgery.
Yeah.
So anyway, this really goes on. And what happened, going back to my story, not to get too
Yeah.
off track here, when they banned me, of course, I appealed and the appeal was denied.
Wow.
There is a process. I'm sure your organizations have similar processes. If someone in the area of a profession misbehaves, there
Right.
has to be some sort of a disciplinary
There
process for
is.
them.
Yeah.
And in
Yep.
the ACS, that process is that the Board of Regents sends the whatever the situation is over to their Judiciary Committee.
Hmm.
They investigate. The
Right.
investigation includes contacting the individual surgeon to hear their side of things.
Okay.
Then they make a determination. Then they come back to the Board of Regents, say, okay, we've determined that there is cause for some type of discipline, and the Board of Regents issues the discipline.
Hmm.
And throughout this process, the individual is kept informed with certified mail and so forth that these things are happening. They have a chance to have a formal hearing before the board to
Right.
present their defense. None of this happened for me. I mean, I found out about my ban after the fact. And then when I
Hmm.
went to the Judiciary Committee and said, "Listen, I want a hearing. I want
Sure.
my privileges back as a fellow in good standing." It's
Yes.
interesting, Michael. They didn't kick me out.
Huh.
If they kicked me out, I might have had a legal basis for suing them because there was no basis for
Hmm.
kicking me out. But they told me I was still a fellow in good standings. I just couldn't have any voice. I was isolated, silenced, and
Wow.
and
You were
and
canceled.
basically the term I guess is ghosted in my
Yeah. You were
organization.
canceled.
So I said, I want a formal hearing. And I went to the director of the Judiciary Committee, and I love the letter. I should post it somewhere because it's one of these things that you just can't make up. He said, well, your ban was never brought to our committee, which is a violation of the bylaws right off the
Oh.
bat.
Oh.
And therefore, because it didn't come through us, it's technically not a disciplinary issue. So because it's not a disciplinary issue, even though you're banned for life, you don't get a hearing.
Wow.
So
And
that's where
and
things
this.
stood, and it
Wow.
stood basically until last year.
Hmm.
So the reason I ended up on Tucker,
Yeah.
if you go back a couple of
Sure.
months or so,
Right.
I joined an organization called Do No Harm. After
Yes.
I exhausted my appeals with the ACS to try to get my privileges back and to continue to fight this ideology of DEI in surgery, I heard about Do No Harm just a month or two after they were launched, and I went to them and said, "Listen, I need this is my situation. Can you give me some help?"
Right.
And they were very sympathetic because this is what they're pushing against.
Yep.
And this led to I wrote an article, opinion piece that went into the Wall Street Journal.
Hmm.
I call it "Critical Theory is Bad Medicine." And of course, the Wall Street Journal is widely read. It
Yep.
raised my profile. Tucker Carlson contacted me and said, "We'd like to have you on the show."
Oh.
And my first thought was great. But I checked with some people. I try to be a little cautious. I try to be
Sure.
very professional. And what I was told by people that I trust was, well, you may want to wait because if you
Hmm.
get on a show like Tucker Carlson, you're going to be painted with that brush, so to speak. You're going to
Hmm.
be seen as one of those people that, you know, supports Tucker Carlson.
Sure.
And do you really want that on your resume? You'll never get into the Wall Street Journal again if you do that. And you're burning some bridges if you do that. So I thought,
Yep.
well, I'm still wanting to work within the ACS. I wasn't trying to publicly, you know, humiliate or harm the ACS in any way. All I wanted was my privileges back. And
Yes.
so I told Tucker, thank you, Tucker. I appreciate it, but no, thank you.
Oh,
And I continued to fight
right.
with the ACS. And finally, I reached the point where I said, you know what? I've exhausted all my options.
Hmm.
They tell me that I'm not going to have any possibility. There's no way for me to ever get my privileges back. So
Hmm.
I'm going on Tucker. So I called him back
Oh,
and I got on Tucker Carlson when he was still on Fox.
yes.
Tucker was still on Fox News, and
So, folks,
I
this
never.
is, I just want to tell,
That's
you have the link in the chat. This is
that's
the,
it. That's
it's
the
a
Wall Street
paywalled
Journal.
article, but there it is. Wall Street Journal, September 14th, 2022. Dr. Richard Bosshart, critical race theory is bad medicine. The American College of Surgeons promotes the latest political quackery. I love that. And just so folks know, I just wanted to give you some backup and original sources, which we try to do as much as we can here on the show. What Rick is talking about is a very real thing. So here is his organization that he's a member in good standing of, the American College of Surgeons, member for decades, by the way, and they are celebrating the University of Virginia and supporting a diverse surgical trainee population. And this came out in 2021. I don't know if you've read this article, Rick, but what are they saying here? And what's your comment?
That particular article, let's see, I haven't, I've seen a lot on the site. I haven't seen
Oh, of
that
course.
specific article, so I haven't read that one directly.
No, it's all
I
right.
can, I can tell you that there's a continual push because it's been all through the ACS for years now,
Hmm.
to focus on diversity.
Hmm.
They're trying
So
to get
not
as
merit.
many.
So not merit, not competence, but
No,
diversity.
absolutely not. Well, you know, it's a nuanced sort of thing. I try to avoid making blanket statements. I try to
Sure.
avoid making statements that are too simplistic for a complex situation.
Yep, yep.
One of the problems is that, you know, we've taken words that had certain meanings in the past and we've changed those meanings. So
Oh,
diversity now is not diversity of opinion. Diversity
right,
is diversity of racial profiles and ethnic
right,
profiles.
right.
And so they look at people and they put them into groups. You're
Hmm.
black or you're Hispanic or you're
Right,
Asian or you're female, you're male, whatever the case might be. And they treat that group as a homogeneous group, as though all blacks and all Asians and all
right.
Hispanics are the same.
So
And then
this
they
is
look at the
this is affirmative action, basically.
oh, yeah, it has been, and it was basically the Supreme Court basically, you know, cut that out in
Right.
the Students for Fair Admissions versus Harvard University, where the judgment was that affirmative action was unconstitutional. Uh, I'm all for bringing in underrepresented minorities in medicine,
Sure,
but not
sure.
if you're going to have to lower the bar to do that.
Right,
And that's
right.
one of the problems. I mean, they've had
Yes.
affirmative action for over 50 years, going back to the Greg
Mm,
Bakke decision back when he went to the Supreme Court because he
right.
was kept out of medical school because he was white, basically.
Yes.
Um, so they've had this going on for all these years. It's not like they haven't been favoring certain minorities to get
Right.
into the medical profession, but the percentages have hardly budged at all. You have basically
Mm,
only about 2 or 3% of surgeons are black, whereas in the
mhm.
population you have 13% of people in a population of black. So according to the ideologues for DEI and
Right.
anti-racism, if you don't have the same proportions of people in medicine say that you do in the population, that disparity is a signal for discrimination.
So wait a minute,
If
Rick. I
it,
just want to. I didn't know that. So even with the thumb on the scale, the needle hasn't moved, so to speak, and with all this affirmative action, discrimination, immutable characteristics like skin color, which is, melanin content in the skin. being the determining factor or a factor in medical school admissions. Even with decades of thumb on the scale, the numbers haven't really moved.
No, they haven't.
Wow.
They're still, they're still,
Wow.
as they say, underrepresented.
Mm,
Now the thumb on the scale has changed in some respects. If you look at women in medicine,
right,
dramatic changes in that area.
right,
According to the dictates of DEI,
right.
because women make up 50% of our population, we should be having 50% doctors in medicine.
Hmm,
Right now, in residency programs in plastic surgery, my specialty,
right.
more than half of residents in plastic surgery are women.
Okay, so wait a
So
minute.
we've
So,
achieved equity there.
well, right. Okay, yeah. So we want to define some terms here, equity and inclusion, but was there the thumb on the scale to lower standards to get more women in the way they've done with other groups?
I won't say women, but I will say that the thumb had been on the scale for sure. And I can tell you several ways that that happened.
Hmm.
One is they've gone from grading systems to pass fail. Uh,
Oh,
grading grading systems were felt to disfavor certain
wow.
groups.
Oh,
If you look
the
at the
exams are racist.
admission, yeah, if you look at the admission
Hmm.
criteria for elite medical schools, you'll find that if you look at the grade point average and the medical college aptitude test scores for
Right,
applicants to medical schools,
right.
that if the white and Asian students have substantially higher scores than the Black and Hispanics.
Oh,
So the idea is that grading, objective grading, produces disparate effects on the minority populations, and therefore we have to get rid of that. And so they've gone to a
hmm,
pass-fail system.
hmm.
So it's very hard to evaluate people on a pass-fail because everyone basically is
Wow.
on a level playing field.
Right.
Um, the same thing occurred not just with the GPA and the MedCats. It also occurred with what's called the STEP exams. In medical
Right.
school, there are three examinations you take in the course of medical school.
Right.
They used to be called the national boards when I was in medical school back in the Neanderthal days of the 1970s. Now they're called step one, step two, step three.
Okay.
Step one is taken after the second year of medical school. It's a comprehensive written exam on everything you've learned in the basic sciences and so forth. Okay.
Right.
And those exams are used to establish, um, the ranking of medical students. If
Hmm.
a elite program is looking for the best medical students, they're going to want the
Right.
medical student that have the highest scores on the step one examinations.
Right.
And so they have a lot to do with medical school uh, ranking and ability to be competitive
Hmm.
for some of the more difficult elite programs and elite specialties.
Hmm.
My specialty of plastic surgery today is one of the most difficult to get into of all surgical
Really?
specialties.
Wow.
And so, when you have the step one scores, again, disparate impact because
Right.
the Hispanic and the Black students were not scoring as well. And so they turned those examinations around to pass fail and
Hmm.
limited grades from those. There are other ways of judging people's, qualifications besides grades, of course. I mean, there's other things you do. That's the reason why people get interviewed and they are asked to submit essays and things of that sort.
Right.
But it's an objective way of grading. Now, is it guaranteed that someone with a higher score on these examinations is going to be a better doctor? No, there's no
Hmm.
guarantee of that. I mean, there's people that are going to be superb doctors that don't perform well on examinations, and people that are going to be so-so doctors that are brilliant in getting high scores. But you
Right.
have to have some method, some standardized method of evaluating people, and they've gotten rid of these because of
Wow.
there we go. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
this
mean,
is,
it's not hard to find articles like this any longer. I mean, they're
yeah, it's
everywhere.
not. I mean, this is crazy. This is just almost exactly a year ago. And even after the Supreme Court ruling, which is in the chat, med schools still accept Black students with lower MCATs, which is the test you had mentioned, and regardless of that. And it's, you'd think, Richard, that, this would be the one area where you wouldn't want to compromise standards is in
You would think.
medicine. I mean, this
You would
is
think.
insane.
Well,
And
and there's two problems with this too, and this has been pointed out by a number of people. Heather McDonald, you may have heard her
yes,
name.
she's great.
She's
Yeah.
a fellow of the Manhattan Institute. She does a
Yes.
lot of writing on this issue, and she wrote a book
Yep.
called The Diversity Delusion.
Right.
And one of her points is that when you take people that are not really qualified, if you take someone with a let's just say modest background academically, and you throw them into an elite institution, you're setting them up for failure. They might perform
That-
beautifully in a state
yes.
school or something lesser, but you're
Yes.
putting them into these elite institutions unprepared to compete with students that made it on their
Yes.
capabilities.
And
And so it's
that
unfair to them for one thing.
it
But the
is.
other thing is this, and this I don't hear talked about much at all. If I was a one of these, a member of one of these groups, I'm unfortunately, I'm an accident of birth.
Marginalized.
I'm
Right, you're the
older
uber
white guy.
oppress. You and I are the uber oppressors
Yeah, we are the
of the
worst
planet.
of the possible,
Yes,
demographics, if you will.
for sure.
But if I was a Hispanic or a Black or a female physician, would I want
Right.
people looking at me and wondering if I got into my profession and succeeded because I had a
Exactly.
leg up and I had advantages that other people didn't have?
Yes.
I had, interestingly, Michael, before I was banned in the ACS, I had a lot of direct private messages from physicians in minority groups. And these are
Hmm.
women and Blacks and Hispanics.
Right.
Mostly they were older physicians, and they came
Okay.
through when it was a challenge. It was a challenge to get into medical school, the challenge to get
Right.
through medical school.
Right.
And they fought and they studied and they worked and they
Yep.
sweated and they got into residencies and they became excellent physicians. And they
Right.
bristle at the idea that they had any kind of, advantages to
Yes.
get to where they are.
Well,
And I don't know that people should be necessarily happy to
right.
have people asking them or just asking themselves if,
Yep.
maybe I wasn't as qualified, but I got in because of my skin color
Right.
background.
Well, two things on that. One is Thomas Sowell said the same thing before Congress in the 1990s. And he was
I
testifying before
love
Congress.
Thomas Sowell.
He's the best. He's absolutely one. What a national treasure. And by the way, my son, who's in college studying business, finance, things like that, has to take a lot of economics classes. And I said, did your professor like ever mention, not even teach Thomas Sowell? And he said, well, he mentioned him one day. That was about it, and which was a lot. It's more than I expected. But anyway, he said the same thing. He said, you're hurting the Black students by lowering the bar for them because they're in an institution where they can't hack it. And so you either have to lower the graduation standards just so they can stick around, or they're gonna wash out. And Joy Reid, who was fired from CNN or something like that, she said on the air, she said, the only reason I got into Harvard was I was a Black woman. Like, there's no way, she even, in her words, there's no way I would have gotten into Harvard with my grades if I wasn't a Black woman. And it's like, what's going on? This is just insanity where this sort of cultural Marxism, where the whole world is divided into oppressor and oppressed, and all these victim groups, and the more victim groups, marginalized groups you're part of, you gain intersectionality points. Well, she's Black and she's female, so her social status is higher. It has nothing to do with individual merit. Is really devastating.
Well, the pushback today is trying to, and what I'm working toward and what the people that I associate with are working toward is to get back to a merit-based system
Yes.
where the focus is on excellence,
Wow. What a thought.
and ability, and everything else is secondary.
Yes.
It's going to be a hard thing to restore because we've gone so far in the other direction. But I think that medicine is going to have to do that.
Right. Rick, did they restore your status at ACS?
That's an interesting question, Michael, because what happened is this. That article from the Wall Street Journal was just the first of many. I had articles published in National Review and City Journal,
Right.
Washington Examiner. I was putting up things all the time about the ACS. I was probably talked about quite a bit in some of their board meetings because I was getting a lot of press. And then,
Right.
when I went on Tucker, the the time I had on Tucker was limited to, I thought it was going to be about 3.5 minutes. There was not even 3 minutes. I couldn't get
Oh, the
through what I
first
wanted
one,
to say.
2023. Yes.
Yeah, I was cut off basically. Tucker said, this is really important. I'm so sorry. We don't have enough time, but I
Oh.
want you back. Okay. He said, I want you back on.
Oh.
And then he left Fox a couple of weeks later. He got fired, left
Oh.
Fox. And so, fast forward about a year or so, and Tucker now has his very popular cable or podcast on
Yeah.
social media.
Yep.
And I reached out. I said, "Hey, Tucker, you said you wanted to have me back, and I'm here. Would love to chat." And so he invited me down to his studio in Florida. I'm in Florida, so it was just a short drive away.
Oh.
And that's when I went on Tucker Carlson and had my conversation with him. Yeah, that was the first interview on
Yep.
Fox, which did not go well. I thought I didn't really get, and this was the one where I had a nice conversation with him, and it really went well.
It
Tucker,
did.
by the
And
way, I think Tucker's kind of gone off the deep end in
it's
some
been a little
respects.
weird. Yeah, I love your comments on that. It's really, I used to listen to him regularly, and now not so much.
But I'm so grateful to have had that particular opportunity.
Yep.
But I was on Tucker, and that kind of raised my profile quite a bit.
Well,
And I had
yeah.
done all these things. And last year, I said, okay, I need to do something. So my last hurrah, if you will,
Yep.
was that I was going to attend the annual clinical congress of the ACS, the American College, which was held in Chicago.
Wow.
And
Good
that
for
was in
you.
October. And I thought,
Uh,
I'll probably have an opportunity to talk to one or more of the leaders face to face
yes.
because they
Yes.
didn't answer my emails. I sent certified letters. They weren't, I knew they got them because I got the signed receipt, but I wasn't
yes.
getting any response back.
Oh,
I went through, I tried to initiate a civil rights complaint, but
sure.
I was beyond the statute of limitations for that.
Oh,
I contacted some attorneys, but of course it was confirmed that I had no real legal standing with which to sue the ACS
hmm.
because they didn't kick me out. Like I said, if they had, I might have had
Right. That was a
something.
safe play.
So at that point, I said, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to. They have to look me in the face and tell me why I was banned and why I can't
Right.
get back on.
Good for you.
So that was successful. I went to the ACS convention. I met with 3 of the leaders of the ACS. I didn't meet with them. I actually just, probably they'll say that I accosted them. But I walked up and said, "Hi, I'm Rick Bosart. You may remember my name. I just have a simple question. I'd like to know why I was banned
Yeah.
and why I can't be put back on."
Fair question.
And you would have thought I was radioactive. I mean,
Ah,
they could not get away from me fast enough. One guy actually put his hand up like this in my face as he practically ran away from me.
oh
Um,
no.
and so,
Ah,
I made it to 3 of the leaders of the ACS, and I thought, okay, I've done what I can do.
yeah.
And I went home. Well, within weeks of that,
Right.
the ACS completely eliminated the communities altogether. They took them down. There is no longer a discussion forum on the website of the ACS. No explanation, no
Wow.
discussion, nothing, no canvassing of the membership to find out if they wanted to keep. And
Wow.
when some of us pushed and said, "Why do you do this?" They
Right.
said, "Well, because there wasn't enough engagement in the communities." And here's where it really gets interesting.
Mm,
Not a year earlier, on the 10th anniversary of the communities, they had a
right.
big article on how robust the engagement was, how it was
Oh,
growing. They had just
oh,
assigned a new editor of the communities, blah, blah, blah. And now they're telling us that they shut it down because of lack of engagement.
wow.
So now, surgeons have no avenue within the ACS to communicate with each other. We have to do, that
Wow.
through other means. I
Yes.
started a senior surgeon's Facebook page, hoping to garner some activity on that, and I have, I think, 100 or some members on that. Not
Hmm.
all of them are surgeons, by the way.
Okay.
But it's really hard. It's hard to find a forum where you can get physicians into a virtual room, so to speak, to discuss these things.
So, going back to that conference, and good on you for showing up in Chicago for this thing. Did anything else? Did you have any other conversations with other surgeons, other members, colleagues, any, other than, these sort of, you know, you're radioactive, stay away from this guy, interactions with some of the leadership. Any other connections at that conference?
You'll love this. You'll love this one.
Yeah.
One of the reasons that I went, in addition to this possibility of meeting with some of the leaders, was
Yes, yes.
they were inaugurating their senior surgeons session.
Oh,
They were going to focus on senior surgeons, but 30% of the membership of the ACS is over 60. So
okay.
that's a significant number.
That's a bunch.
93,000 members of the ACS. You got 30,000 doctors who are older than 60.
Oh, so there's
And
90,000 members and about 30.
93,000 members, and over 30,000 are over
Wow.
60.
Wow.
Tells you one
Okay.
thing: the population of surgeons is aging out rapidly.
Right.
So I wanted to go to this meeting and just kind of network with some of these
Yeah,
older surgeons.
that's great.
Well, I don't think there were 30 people in the room. I mean, it was crazy. They advertised this from 11 until I think 2 o'clock. You would think they would be serving. I mean, it cost me $270 to attend this thing.
Mm.
You'd think they'd serve you a lunch or something. No, none of that. There was no program. One of the people they asked to speak was asked right then and there, and had no clue he was going to be asked to speak. So they were paying lip service to senior surgeons and doing nothing really
Oh,
to indicate that there was any importance placed on this group. Okay.
wow.
So at the end of this is where I spoke to one of the leaders. He was there at this. It happened to be the general secretary that had banned me. So I got a
Oh,
chance to talk to him. Well, I'm leaving the room, and there are people mingling, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to introduce myself to a couple of these older surgeons and talk to them. So
sure.
I introduced myself to one or two of them, and one of them turned out to be a former president of the ACS, was
Oh,
on the board of regent, or was in the leadership. And
oh,
when I mentioned my situation very briefly, he got very excited, got very interested. He said,
oh,
"Come on, let's go over here in the corner and let's just talk." And he went over, he pulled up a couple of chairs, he put them facing each other, sat down, I sat down, and we started to talk.
oh,
And this one of the staffers that was there came over and
right.
started to talk to us. And I
Oh,
said, "Excuse me, could you allow us to have a conversation here?"
yeah.
And she's trying to interrupt us. And
Oh,
uh, I finally had to say something, say, we're really trying to have a conversation, and
yeah,
can you do this, another time or some other place?
sure.
Next thing I know, one of the older surgeons that had been uh, instrumental in my band came over,
Right.
and he said to this guy, he says, "Hey, are you coming to the meeting?" And he says, "What meeting is that?" So we're having a meeting right now of such and such. So I wasn't even aware of it, and I wasn't invited. He said, "Well, you're being invited right now." And so
No way.
they literally took this guy by the arm and led him away
No.
from me. So I mean, it was so
Oh,
obvious
that's
that it was not even funny.
crazy.
So yeah, they were doing whatever they could to keep me.
Wow.
I was surprised security didn't escort me out of the hall,
Yeah,
but
right, right.
they never quite did that.
That's
So
insane.
yeah, it's sad.
Mm.
I've been a proud member of the ACS for 30 some years. I've had FACS
Wow.
after my name. I have my
Wow.
certificate on the wall in my office. I
Sure.
really, really saw that as the final validation of my training and my commitment
Yeah.
to practicing surgery at the highest level of the profession.
Yes.
And now I find myself looking at an organization that I don't even recognize anymore,
Wow.
doing things that are completely against the things that I believe medicine really should represent, which is,
Mm.
the Hippocratic Oath, merit and excellence, and things of that sort.
Yes.
Um,
And folks, just what Dr. Vosshart's talking about, here's just some more. This is not a it's sort of an oblique reference, but here's ACS. Again, this buzz concept of diversity and inclusion. So we have diverse and inclusive, inclusive excellence, all of this. And this is beyond just non-discrimination. This is active discrimination to, as I see it, to manipulate numbers and percentages to fit some made up ideal rather than emphasizing merit and excellence in medicine. And here's one more. This is, I'll give you the link here. This is a June 2023 bulletin from ACS. And I'll give you the links here on our watch page and in the chat. But it's wild. So here it is. This is the let's see, this particular page. Oh yeah, survey highlights surgeon compensation, and there it is, that word again, diversity, which isn't what it used to mean. But here it is, DEI. The ACS leadership survey, and most respondents, 81%, incorporate DEI programmatic information into regularly scheduled meetings. Rick, what does that mean?
Let me read that paragraph here.
Sure.
Well, it's, of course, the whole idea behind DEI is that you're going to be favoring certain groups over others.
Right.
Because that's the bottom line, is you favor certain groups in order to raise their representation as opposed to groups that you believe are overrepresented.
Yeah.
So, and of course, this goes to the whole oppressor narrative and the whole systemic racism narrative.
Right.
Black against white against Hispanic, and so forth. What's interesting about that, Michael, is this. I looked at the 2023 date of that.
Yep.
That was right around the time. You know how certain words will acquire baggage? Okay.
Yeah.
It used to be that you could say, queer, but you can't say somebody's queer anymore because queer carries a lot of cultural baggage now.
Well, when I was growing up, it was an insult.
You were weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. To be queer
it was a
weird.
denigrating term at that time.
Exactly. And anti-racism became one of these words that acquired a lot of baggage.
Yes.
And so you don't hear about it. You don't hear about anti-racism. Now it's DEI, it's diversity, equity, inclusion. But DEI has acquired a lot of baggage.
Yes.
Because of being associated with discrimination, reverse discrimination, if you will, and that sort of thing. And so what the ACS did is they did not truly backtrack from their ideological path. They just rebranded it. And they took DEI, and you won't find much for DEI anywhere on the ACS website today if you go on it.
Oh, okay.
I'm impressed that you're finding this stuff so quickly. But if you look for DEI, it's going to be all-inclusive excellence.
Oh,
that's the department of diversity in the ACS is now the Department of Inclusive Excellence.
Wow.
The ACS
kind of an oxymoron.
Oh yeah. Oh, well, it is. Inclusive excellence is an absolute oxymoron. How can excellence be ever inclusive? I mean, if it's everybody is excellent, then nobody is
by definition. And I just want to pause there for a second, Rick. They have a term, surgeons underrepresented in medicine, with its own acronym, URIM, URIM, surgeons underrepresented in medicine. So again, sticking the thumb on the scale, this is, what's called cultural Marxism, which is this oppressor-oppressed group collective identity idea where the merit of the individual is irrelevant, and what group they're part of, and is that a oppressor group, which is, white males, or straight white males, or is it a marginalized or oppressed group? This is Marxism applied to culture. And so there's just even this term, surgeons underrepresented in medicine, as if it didn't matter if you're good, it just matters if you're white. I mean, it's anti-white neo-racism. It's insane.
It is, absolutely. And this is another term that's kind of gotten a lot of baggage is quotas. No one likes to discuss
Oh,
quotas. That you say
oh,
that will tell you, oh no, this isn't quotas. We're not talking about quotas. But
oh,
if you look at what they're doing, everything they're doing is being done to establish proportionate representation.
wow.
If medicine had, whatever the numbers are, I think it's 13% black, had 60% Hispanic,
Yep,
had 3 or 4% Asian, 50% female, all of
right.
this would go away. There'd be no place for all of these programs because there'd
Mm.
be no disparities. So the whole
Oh.
goal of these programs is to establish this proportionate representation.
Mm.
I happen to believe that if we ever reach that, what I think is an unattainable goal, but if we ever did achieve that goal, the people that are pushing these ideologies would just find something else to be
Oh.
against and to be, fighting for or
Right. Who
fighting
else is
against. And
marginalized
yeah, I
by the
mean,
oppressor? Yeah.
it's not the revolution is the thing. It's not the problem at the moment.
Right.
So once you have if you correct that disparity, you got to find something else to justify your existence, if you will.
Mm. Right. Because it's just like in education in general, uh, so many teachers are not really educators, but activists, whose job they see is to train a new generation of social justice warriors. They're not educating, hey, let's have competent kids who can read and write. Let's make sure we train activists to feel angry about something, blame somebody for how whatever is, and go be an activist about that.
It's
Yeah,
happening at every level. It happens in
it
medical
is.
schools. I've had
Wow.
medical schools tell me that, or medical students, I should say, tell me
Mm,
that uh, some of the classes that they were taking in the past in basic sciences have been cut in order to make room for classes and things like social, what is it, settler colonialism,
what?
white privilege, uh, climate. They're teaching
Wow.
things like, climate catastrophism in
Oh
medical
no.
school. And what they're doing is
Wow.
exactly what you said. They're instead of producing excellent physicians, they're trying to produce social justice warriors to
Right.
go out there and radically change society. And that's not the goal of medical education.
No, not
There's
at
plenty of
all.
places where you can do that. You can protest and picket and do all the
Sure.
things to become socially and politically active, but you
Right.
have to have doctors who are trained in the practice of medicine.
Well, yeah,
Uh,
if there's one area, like I said, if there's one area you don't want to mess with excellence, it would be in medicine. So, Rick, tell us about this book. This came out just a couple of years ago, The Making of a Plastic Surgeon, 2 years in the Crucible, Learning the Art and Science. What'd you talk about here?
Most people have no clue what I do. I I have spent most of my career having to explain to people what does a plastic surgeon do anyway. They look at shows like Nip Tuck
Oh,
and
right.
all the various other things that
Yes,
supposedly represent plastic surgery, most of which is cosmetic and most of which is
sure,
sensationalized.
sure, sure.
And they have no idea of all the things that plastic surgery encompasses. And
Hmm.
so, and I trained in a program. You mentioned, I think, at the beginning briefly, Dr. Millard. Dr.
Yes.
D. Ralph Millard was voted by plastic surgeons as one of the top 10 plastic surgeons of the millennium.
Wow.
He was an iconic figure in the
Wow.
in the profession. He wrote the book literally on cleft lip and palate surgery, and I was very privileged to be able to train under him at Miami.
Wow.
But he was also a crusty old curmudgeon and made my life hell for 2 years. It took me probably 20 years to come to terms with the traumas of my my training, if you will.
But
And
did it make you a better surgeon?
I left in his good graces. I'm
Yeah.
truly grateful. I think that
Yes.
the education I received there was second to none. And I had a good relationship with him for the remainder of his life. He passed away a few years back, and Up
Mm,
until that time, we communicated on a fairly regular basis. I took him to lunch a few months before he passed away.
mm,
And this book was my attempt to, it's a memoir. It's an attempt to not just simply chronicle those 2 years, but to try to put out for people that have no clue what
right.
plastic surgery really entails, the
Yes.
incredible advances that have marked the specialty and so forth.
Mm,
Um, anyway,
that's great.
it's not by any stretch a bestseller. It's what they call a friends and family book, pretty much.
Well, I'm
I
glad it's
think
out there.
I think it's good. And if nothing else, I'll have copies for my friends and family.
Yeah.
I'm writing a second one
Oh, okay.
now that chronicles the advances and changes over 30 some years of my specialty.
Right.
We'll see how that does. It's hard to find people that will publish an unknown author who has no real big social media presence, which I don't and
Mm,
really don't want, to be honest.
mm. Right,
Uh,
right.
for a while, I thought that, and I realized, you know what? I'm retired. I don't want to have a second career
Sure, sure.
on social media. So
Yeah. Well, this is one of the articles I really enjoyed that was published in National Review. It's DEI or bust for the ACS. What a great article! I just even that bit that was posted here is it's just been very helpful. So I'm just going to give folks a link to that as well, and also on our watch page. And
I've been
this,
fortunate. And the thing that disturbs me, Michael, is
yeah.
I'm still a voice kind of shouting into the void. Uh,
Oh, okay.
I get a lot of private affirmation from people.
Right, right.
I don't see a lot of people doing what I'm doing, actually.
Hmm.
Um, Do No Harm has been very, very effective in pushing, the return to Hippocratic medicine and merit and
Sure.
excellence in medicine.
Yep.
But it's a small organization. We're 55,000 members
Hmm.
across the country. It's growing. I'm delighted to see that, but we've not reached that tipping point
Right.
where it's become a movement to restore medicine to its traditional foundation, which
Wait,
is to
which organization has 55,000 members?
do no harm.
Oh, Do No Harm. Yes,
Do no harm. Yeah.
that's right.
Uh, it's tremendous. Everyone should join. There's no fee to join. You can obviously donate to support their work, but there's no fee to become a member. And the more members we have, of course, the more of a voice we have, the more clout we have.
Right.
But so I would love to see my fellow surgeons, groundswell of surgeons coming together and say, hey, this is wrong. We need to get back to uh, some basic things in medicine, which is,
Mm.
the focus on excellence in surgery. Uh,
Yes.
the problem with shortages is that I'm afraid that these shortages are going to make these certifying organizations more prone to
Oh,
allowing less
cutting
qualified
standards.
people
Wow.
into simply, get more warm bodies into surgery. And
Right.
this is not a profession where you can have people of questionable qualifications practicing. It's going to be a
Right.
disaster
For
if we do
sure.
that.
Well, it's
Uh,
like when United Airlines announced that their goal that they were committed to having half of all airline pilots be black within 5 years or something like that. And nothing against black pilots, but wait a minute. Don't you want the best, most qualified, pilot piloting the plane that you're in? And, even more dramatically so, your surgeon. Now, in our in our first conversation, tell me if this is still true for you, Richard. You said, in our first conversation, you said, I would really encourage people not to see a doctor younger than 40 years old. I don't know if you still think that that's a good guideline,
I
but
think that's yeah. I say that a little bit tongue in cheek, if you
tell a little
will,
tongue in cheek,
but
sure.
there's definitely a serious aspect to that. And I think that
Yes,
people that have come out of medical education in the past 10 or fewer years
right?
have come through the whole indoctrination process
Oh,
and have had their medical education, I think, compromised
hijacked. Yeah,
by focus on things that don't have anything to do with medical excellence in practice,
right.
and especially in surgery. We haven't even touched on things like diminished time in training. I mean,
Oh,
back in 2000 and I'm really bad on dates, but around 2004, they passed a restriction on residency hours.
oh,
A
I
resident,
remember that.
yeah, there was a very, very uh, famous or infamous case in New York where a young woman died in a hospital. And her father happened to be a big time attorney. And his reasoning was that the reason she died was because the doctors taking care of her were overly tired and overworked, and they needed to cut
Oh,
back on their hours.
oh,
Her name was Libby Tanner, Libby, not Tanner.
hmm.
I'm blanking I
Sure,
know it was
sure.
Libby something or other.
Yep, yep.
Um, but they in New York they limited residency hours, and then in 2004 thereabouts, the American Council on Graduate Medical Education did this for nationwide, where
Hmm,
you can't work more than 80 hours a week, you can't be on more than 24 hours at a stretch,
hmm.
and they cut back training by hundreds, if not thousands, of hours over the course of years. So, you know,
Wow.
the training of a general surgeon is 5 years basically,
Okay,
6 if you do a year of research. So
right.
you have 5 years to take a totally incompetent, fumble-fingered intern and turn him into a competent general surgeon that can go out and practice
Wow.
on the public safely.
Wow.
It's a lot to learn. I've been through it. I can tell you,
Of
it's
course.
stressful, it's rigorous.
Yeah,
It's a very demanding process.
right.
And if you start cutting back on the hours, there's no way you're going to be able to maintain the amount of experience and exposure that surgeons
Oh,
need. So today,
well, yeah.
80% of graduating uh, surgeons today from general surgery residencies do not go into
Right.
practice immediately.
Really?
80%. They go into fellowships, which is an additional year, 2, or
Right,
even 3 of
right,
subspecialty training.
right.
And they aren't doing this because they're passionate about doing a subspecialty. They're doing it because if you ask them, these surveys that have been taken, 2/3 will tell you they're doing this because they don't feel like they're competent to go out and practice after five
Wow.
years. And
Wow.
then on the other side of the coin,
Wow.
if you survey the directors of these programs and you ask them about the quality of the residents they're getting into these fellowships, they will tell you that 60% of those individuals, they don't trust to operate for more than 30 minutes independently on a complex operation.
Whoa.
So, I mean, it's a terrible indictment of our surgical
Wow.
education, and one that I think is being glossed over
Yeah,
in this push for DEI, inclusive excellence, call it what you will,
right,
as opposed to refocusing on training the very, very best people
right,
in the best possible training programs that we can and accepting
right.
nothing less than
Yep.
excellence and at minimum, competence.
Well, that's such a good point. I was having a ice cream cone with my former brother-in-law, who is a neurosurgeon, and he and I, visited him during his residency, and that's a very long, intense training program
August, yes.
in any surgical specialty. And we would just happen to be at the Jersey Shore, on the boardwalk having a waffle cone or something like that. And we like to catch up, talk shop, wonderful guy. And he mentioned this. He said, the standards in training in my profession have just been reduced. And he said, I'm very concerned about this. He said, making it easier doesn't make the doctor better at the end of the program. So he was very opposed. He made it very clear. He was very opposed to this hour limit and whatever. He's like, look, surgery's hard and it takes time to figure it out. And there's no substitute for like time in the hospital, in the OR, seeing patients, observing, assisting, whatever, all the things you guys do. He said that just takes time. And yeah, it's hard. But you come out being a better doctor. So he was kind of upset at he was just shaking his head. He's like, that was not a good move to reduce standards in that way.
you're going to hear that from a lot of older surgeons. I mean, we're
Oh,
the old dinosaurs, but I agree with them 100%.
wow.
I've heard this from multiple areas.
Mm,
Um, the one of my colleagues is
yeah.
or was, I should say, he lost his position. He was the head of a division of plastic surgery at a very elite institution.
Oh,
He was replaced because they wanted a woman in the position,
mm,
and they had to go through several women to
what?
find one that was qualified before.
Wow.
And I believe this is in or was in litigation, but be that as it may, he had a very uh, stellar career, if you will, academic career. And part of that career was he was an examiner.
Mm,
So when plastic surgeons go to take their examinations to be board certified, um, you have to have examiners, and he was one of those. And he said one
okay.
thing that he saw over the course of years, 15 plus years of doing this, was that uh, he would look at the logs. When you're a surgeon, you have to submit a log of all your cases for the past
Oh,
year or
sure.
so to
Yeah.
be reviewed by these examiners.
Right. Right.
This is part of the vetting process for
Yeah,
your
we had that in
certification.
acupuncture school.
And those cases had to be presented in absolute detail, every single, all the hospital records, all your office records, your billing
Right.
records.
Right.
And he found that he said these surgeons are taking way too long to do these cases. If there is a standard, let's just say, for example, if the standard is 4 hours to
Right.
do a breast reduction, which is a lengthy demanding procedure, he was finding that a lot of these surgeons were taking 6 and 7 hours to do a breast reduction. And he
Oh.
said that's definitely tied to complications. I mean, the longer you're under anesthesia, the longer you're in surgery,
Oh.
the higher the rate of infection and poor healing and bleeding and so
Oh.
forth from these operations. So one of his concerns was these surgeons are much slower these days than they used
Wow.
to be.
So
And
taking
one of
your
the
time
ways,
is not always a good thing, you're saying.
exactly,
Hmm.
you don't want to be the fastest guy in the block, but you also don't want to be the slowest guy in the block.
Right.
There's
Right.
a nice window there that I
Sure.
always felt I fit into very comfortably
Right.
in how long it takes you to do a case.
Wow.
And one of the ways we know that this is true is that Medicare came out and said, and I'm
Right.
not sure if it's only Medicare, but Medicare came out and said, well, we're not going to be paying for anesthesia for certain operations beyond a certain amount of time. And
Wow.
so, because they were finding that these operations are taking longer than they're supposed to be. What's interesting is that anesthesia has nothing to do with the length of surgery. It's the surgeon that determines how long the operation takes. The anesthetist is just there to keep
Wow.
the patient asleep and comfortable while the
Right. Right.
operation is
Right.
being done. But there's no process really for vetting surgeons that are too slow. I mean, they can
Wow.
tell you in the hospital which surgeons are too slow and which ones are expeditious in doing operations. But yet this information out there in studies is very difficult to do. And
Wow.
the issue is too, well, are there more complications? Is
Right.
is
That
is
was my
this
question.
translating to more complications? And that
Do we know
becomes
if it is?
difficult to assess for the simple reason that the vast majority of operations today are being done as an outpatient. I mean, when I
Okay.
was in training a gallbladder,
Right.
someone having their gallbladder out would come in the hospital the
Right.
night before the operation,
Right.
have the surgery the next day, and be discharged 4 or 5 days later.
Hmm.
Today, they come in the hospital, have the operation that day, and go home that evening. All right. Now,
Really?
that's pretty routine now with
Is that
endoscopic.
is that good, or is that just cost savings?
Well, like anything else, it's probably a qualified good. It's good if it reduces anesthesia time, hospital time. If you can
Right.
do it with good results and without complications, that's
Right.
great. Okay, so it's a more expensive operation, but then you have to weigh that against the time that they're not in the hospital. And so on balance, I think that's been a good thing. I think most
Hmm.
people would say
Okay.
that endoscopic, for example, gallbladder surgery has been a good thing on
Right.
balance.
Right. Right. Right.
But here's the thing, complications you would have picked up in the hospital years ago because the patient was in the hospital. If they have a pneumonia or an
Oh.
infection or a wound breakdown, those are going to
Wow.
occur after the patient's discharged.
Oh.
And the only way you're ever going to be able to capture those complications for statistics is if the surgeon voluntarily lists them
Hmm.
or documents them or reports
Hmm.
them. Okay. So I would routinely get a monthly form from the hospital saying, okay, these are the patients that you did surgery on that were outpatients. That did any of them have complications? Okay. And,
Hmm.
I try to be very honest. If a patient had a cellulitis, I put
Sure.
cellulitis, if whatnot. But it's asking a lot to have an honor system for surgeons to report their complications, especially if they're getting a lot
Hmm.
of them. And if you
Oh,
get a lot of complications, that could
interesting.
create problems for you. You
Huh.
start to raise red flags, and then they start to look at you more closely, and you might
Right.
have an issue with insurance companies and things like
Right.
that. So
Huh.
there's a lot of these things that we are unaware of exactly what the consequences are because we don't have a good reporting system for that either.
So it sounds like one is there may be unknown detriment to these hourly limits in training and to these less confident, longer procedures that may have complications that may not get documented.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
And I'm not saying there is or isn't. I'm saying that the circumstances are such that you have to ask these questions and get
Hmm.
some answers. You can't just say, "Oh no,
Right.
everything's hunky dory and fine."
Okay.
Okay.
Need some data.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's just not a good way to do things.
Yeah.
Um,
And I
you
just
said something
want to
that,
Yeah, I just want to make sure before we move on, I just want to make sure you wrote a whole article about this,
yes,
along with many articles, wonderful articles that you wrote in City Journal. And this one was right on this subject. And what a great article. Thank you for this. And it's, well referenced and you've got links to different things. And, this is a very important one to share. And another reason as you said, to at least consider the years of experience and even age of your surgeon, particularly folks who've graduated in the last few years, under these lowered standards, not just for admissions, but also for training and graduation. It's kind of concerning, the famous thing of, oh, do you really want, the airline pilot to have become an airline pilot because they were black? But, in surgery, I mean, wow, I mean, how, it's the most invasive thing we do in medicine and it's wonderful, it saves countless lives but do you really want the person who was admitted or graduated who isn't the best qualified?
one thing I've heard, this is, first person reports from people, so I'm getting
Yeah,
this firsthand,
sure, sure.
from people that are in training programs. They're, directors of residency programs and such,
Right,
that, it's very, very difficult today
right,
to take a resident. A resident is the person in training. That's the
right.
term we use for someone between medical school and completion of their training. They call the residents, and
Okay.
programs are called residencies.
Yep.
Goes back to when trainees actually lived in the hospital. Back in the day
Mm.
when you were
Oh,
training,
is
you
that where the
actually,
term came from?
yeah,
Oh, I
when you
didn't
were an
know that.
intern, you lived in the hospital. You had a bed in
Wow.
a dormitory type room, and
Wow.
you were there 24/7 basically.
Wow.
We don't quite do that anymore, but that's where the
Sure.
term resident came from.
Okay.
But I know people that I've spoken to personally, who tell me that if you take someone who is a URIM, an underrepresented medicine individual,
Right,
and they're not cutting it, no pun
right.
intended, in the residency, um,
Not cutting.
they're not really meeting the qualifications to be advanced to the next year.
Yes.
And you hold them back, or God forbid, you tell them, listen, you need to go into some other area because you're not going to ever make it as a surgeon.
Oh,
What happens is these things get you reported to the local DEI establishment, and
no.
they come down and say, I'm being
Oh,
discriminated against, or so and so, I'm in a
wow.
toxic situation. And
Wow.
nowadays in those situations, the sympathy is definitely going to go to the
Mm,
person reporting it. It's not going to
mm.
be the attending physician. And
Oh,
so this individual told me that he knows that a lot of these residents are being pushed on forward into their training, even though they're
mm.
not qualified or only questionably qualified, for fear
Wow.
of the blowback that would come from holding back or telling them, dropping
Wow.
them in a residency.
That's
So,
incredible.
I mean, it really is incredible. I remember when I was in my residency, there were a couple of people that came through that clearly were not going to make it. And
Oh,
after a year or two, of working with them, the attending physician, chief of surgery, came in and said, "Listen, you're a super nice guy. You're smart. You haven't got the dexterity. You haven't got the ability
oh,
to do this. We think you need to find another area of medicine to practice in. We wish you well, but we're not gonna
oh,
retain you in the residency."
right.
And that's the way it was. I mean, you didn't
Sure.
get someone coming back and say, "Well, you're only telling me this because I'm black or Hispanic or some other thing."
Right. Right.
Um, and it's an unfortunate aspect of it, but I've heard this from several people firsthand.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
Well, I
there's
want to
there's a
make sure
lot going on.
there's a lot going on. And
The
I'm, yeah,
well, it's a personal thing for me, Michael, because I'm at a point in my life, and my wife and I, where it's not too far in the future. It could be around the corner for all I know, when I'm going to enter medicine as a patient. I'm not going to
mm,
be the provider anymore. I'm going to be the patient. I'm going to,
oh,
if I develop cancer
okay.
or
Yeah,
have a heart problem and need a heart
right,
operation, who am
right.
I going to pick? Who am I going to go to? Who am I going to trust
Wow.
to take
Wow.
care of me? Now I have
Yeah.
an advantage. I mean, I'm able to vet uh,
Well, yeah.
doctors based on a lot of things that I know.
Yeah. And you're probably
And a
not
lot of
picking the
people come to me to
28-year-old,
ask, yeah, they ask me if this is the doctor I should
right?
go
Who's
see.
good?
But it used to be you could assume the doctor you went to met all the criteria to
Yes.
to practice that specialty, and
Right.
you could trust the system. I don't think you can do that today.
Well, you hit it on the head there, Rick, because more, at least as much as anything else, the amount of trust that is needed in the doctor-patient relationship is immense. And if that trust is eroded or compromised in some way, that doesn't go well. As I've taught medical ethics and patient communication subjects for decades, and this whole aspect, these non-clinical aspects of the therapeutic relationship, of rapport, connection, trust, are so critical for the whole thing to go well, and I'm very concerned that what you're pointing out is really eroding that and messing with that. I do want to get to a couple of things for just for our listeners to know
Sure.
about. Um, and this is your, I didn't realize it was 25 years. I wanted folks to have your Orlando Sentinel columns. So we have all of your columns there that you did for decades, which is pretty fabulous on a range of subjects, which I appreciate. So folks have that. Anything you wanted to tell people about that before moving on to the next thing?
No, I love doing that. It made me study, because I wrote on all sorts of stuff
Sure.
outside of plastic. In fact, I only wrote one or two columns a year on plastic surgery. I didn't want to use it to promote my practice.
Wow,
So I
that's
wrote on,
great.
and a lot of alternative medicine too. So a
Oh,
lot of my
good.
thinking on alternative medicine evolved and changed over the course of time doing research on
Oh,
these things.
good. Well, that's my wheelhouse. So happy to have help in any way I can, or be a resource for you. That's my sweet spot for the last 36 years. Um, and then here is very importantly, and there's a couple of these. I wanted to make sure I had the right one. So this is Richard Bosshart, MD. Substack, and then we have Substack at Beyond. Is this the same
Yes, Beyond
stack?
Plastic MD is my Substack.
And what is this one then? Richard Bosshart, MD at
This
Substack.
this is Substack. I don't profess to be real facile with
Oh no,
these
that's
things
fine. So I just
online.
wasn't sure if they were the same or not. That's all. Oh,
I used to have one called oh my gosh, maybe it was Beyond Plastic Surgery was the name
yeah.
of that. I think that was a WordPress. This is my actual Substack, uh,
Okay. Great.
which I call Beyond Plastic MD.
Sure.
This is the one that I'm active on and post
Great.
on and use these days. So that's the one
That's
probably to
great.
go
Thank
to if
you.
you want to
And these are
look at
great
things.
articles. And I am going to ask you in a minute about what the whole Fauci circus in a moment. But there's a couple of things I wanted to make sure we got to. First of all, I thought this is a very important article from 2023, where you really, gave your background of why you got involved in issues concerning your profession, and by extension, that really affects the public good in terms of that. So I just want to make sure folks had this particular article that you wrote a few years ago. Very good article. Thank you. And then this was just, you had a cool profile that just came out this year in what is this style? Lake and Sumter Style. Cool
Lake and Sumter
profile.
Style. It's a local magazine here.
Okay, so this is a Florida publication. Did a very nice profile on you, which was great. So
Yes,
one
that
of
was a
folks.
podcast that they had me
Oh, it's a
do with
podcast. Okay.
the podcast.
Okay, there you are. That's excellent. So there's that. And then this is, I think, the same stack, perhaps, but
I
I
think
wanted.
this is notifications or note. I think this is Substack notes.
Oh, Substack notes. Okay, thank you for that. That's
Yeah, I
helpful.
believe that's what that is.
So folks have both. And then this is a piece also from the local publication on your standing up to the ultra woke ACS, much to the detriment of your profession, unfortunately. So I wanted to make sure folks had that article as well. And then we're getting to another subject. I at least want you, if you have time, just to comment on. This was published also in Orlando Sentinel. This is some time ago, but I thought gave you a good introduction for our
Well, you're taking me down
listeners.
memory lane here now, Michael.
Yeah, right, right. Well,
That was
you've been.
2015.
I know, but I thought it was a cool, like, here's me. While you were still actively practicing, I thought that was pretty cool. And then this was from basically I guess, were you on
I was
Dan's
on Dan
show?
Bongino's show, yes.
Yeah, which was great. So there's the Dan Bongino show excerpt, which was very good. I really appreciate that Dan, gave his audience, a feel for you, and the just the important work you're doing on your profession. And then this is the transcript for folks who want of the Tucker Show, which again, like millions of people, how I was first introduced to your work, and I've been tracking this subject for a very long time. And so when I heard you speaking about it and just revealing so many things I didn't know about it, it's important. So this is something I have, like you, really care a lot about kids, and this is a very important article. But just anything you wanted to share about this other aspect of woke ideology, this ultra radical ideology, but anything you wanted to share with our listeners today on this so-called gender affirming care, uh, travesty, and these medical child abuse. Um, what are your thoughts on that here? And folks have this article, but what did you want to say about that today, Richard?
Well, it's telling where we are today in medicine, that there's even
Mm,
controversy about the
right,
biological existence of two sexes.
right,
I mean, I don't know how you can possibly get more basic in medicine than male and
right,
female. And the
right.
fact that this is now controversial tells you that there's a real problem here.
Yep.
And the physicians that bought onto this, I mean, legitimate physicians have actually bought onto this particular
Wow.
thing. Do No Harm's push has been not only in the area of DEI, but also in the area of gender affirming care, for which I'm very
Mm,
happy. Um, but as a plastic surgeon, it occurred to me that my specialty is really probably the most relevant one in terms of discussing this, because the ultimate end of gender affirming care is to try to turn a boy into a girl, or vice versa.
mm,
And you don't do that just by giving them puberty blockers and sex hormones.
right.
You do it by doing surgery on them,
Yes.
which includes cutting off breasts in teenage girls and
Yep.
trying to convert male genitals into female.
Right.
And so I felt that plastic surgeons need to have a voice in this.
Yes. Were you
I was
involved on this article from Do No Harm?
I don't think I was involved. No, Do No Harm has put out quite a bit of stuff on this, and
Yes. Yes.
I've been focusing more on the DEI area, my
Sure,
involvement with
sure.
Do No Harm.
Of course.
Um, but the American Society of Plastic Surgeons, which I belong to, came out last year with the first major professional medical organization to come out and say, wait a minute, we need to back up a little bit here.
Oh,
And they refused to endorse gender affirming care in minors.
okay. Oh, that's
So they
great.
said that this should not be taking place in anybody under 19. Now, there's a
Wow.
lot of reasons why they chose 19. Some feel that they should have gone even older than that. But
Right.
no one yet has said the data on this is lacking to support this type of work on minors.
Right. And this
Now,
also something happened in England with the National Health Service,
they
where
had
they're no
what's called,
longer.
yeah, they had the I'll tell you, it's terrible going old, Michael. Your brain just doesn't uh snag onto these words you're trying to grasp
Sure. No, it's all right.
going by your head. The CAS files, or the CAS review.
Oh,
A pediatrician by the name of, I believe, I want to say Elizabeth Cass or
sure.
Catherine. Anyway, a very, very notable physician in England was asked to review all the data on gender affirming care for the National Health Service and came out with a very, very comprehensive review called the CAS review, which has been used now everywhere as an indictment, if you will, of gender affirming care. It says the
Hmm.
evidence is very weak for this. It was directly responsible for closing down the largest gender clinic in the UK
Hmm.
and going back to more of a therapy focused approach to gender affirming care as opposed to a medical approach with hormones and
Hmm.
puberty blockers.
Yes.
The National Health Service in the US now, the Health and Human Services that come out with their own review, which
Yes.
includes the CAS review, but their own review
Oh.
said the same thing, that the evidence for this is very weak and we
Hmm.
need to really, really back off on gender affirming care protocols in children. So there's a
Hmm.
definite move, in place right now to get away from treating children as though they are truly, in the wrong body, if you will.
Right. Right. And I've read a little bit. I mean, this is your specialty, but it's surgical mutilation. These bottom surgeries are barbaric. I mean, creating a penis out of a girl's upper arm, removing, several inches of upper arm to create a penis. I mean, like this is evil.
It's mind-boggling that this is being done. It really is. It really,
So,
truly is.
so is your take, Rick, that there's been a positive change in your field and in medicine in general, away to try to at least slightly protect children,
It
basically
is
from their mothers, basically, as the
definitely,
saying goes, as the saying goes, if a 28-year-old thinks they're born in the wrong body, they have a mental illness. Gender dysphoria has been documented mental illness for over a century. If an 8-year-old thinks that they're born in the wrong body, their mother has a mental illness.
it's probably not far from it. I
And
mean,
I've seen
children are
this.
very prone to, a child wants to be a princess. They want to be a
Right,
mermaid. They want to be, all sorts of
right,
things, but we don't affirm that.
right.
To me, it boils down to a very basic premise, and that is that if you have a strongly held belief that is counter to objective reality, we define that as a delusion. And in
Mm,
medicine, we're not in the business of affirming delusions. If a
mm.
person is anorexic and believes they're fat and is starving themselves, we don't give them Ozempic
Oh,
or diet
oh,
pills. We don't affirm
okay,
that.
okay,
If a person has what's called body dysmorphic disorder
right.
and believes that they have some huge deformity and are seeking surgery for it,
Mm,
as a plastic surgeon, you know that the worst thing you can possibly do is to operate on that person because you're never going to
mm,
please them.
right.
There's even a body integrity disorder, which is horrific, where people feel like they need to have a part of their body cut off
Mm,
to feel whole.
wow.
And no one claims you should be affirming these things, but for some reason, we do this
Right,
with children
right.
who, say that they're the opposite sex.
Right.
And the worst thing is we know that 80 to 90% of them, if you leave them alone, by the time they reach the end of puberty and become
Right.
adults, they're going to settle very nicely into their biological sex.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, my son was 5, and I was working in my office at home, and he came into my office. He said, "Daddy, I'm a pirate." And I said, "Oh, okay." So, what did I do? I gouged out his eye and gave him an eye patch. I cut off his lower leg and gave him a peg leg because he told me he was a pirate. Right? Of course. I mean, this is insane. I mean, this is the
And
first
don't forget
time.
cutting off his hand to give him a hook.
Oh, right, right. I have to add that. Cut off his hand to give him a hook. I mean, this is insanity. And what the extra insanity of this, Rick, is this is the first time in history that and please differentiate for me in a minute gender versus sex in medicine, like what that means. But this is the first time that gender has become subjective and not objective reality. There are two genders, you're one or the other, and that's how it's been for millennia. And then, in the last 10 years or whatever, now it's subjective. Well, I'm a man, I'm a boy today, I'm a girl tomorrow, I'm going to be a boy again next week. It's just entirely subject. It's like this profound narcissism that however I feel is my reality, and that objective reality is irrelevant.
I can't say it better than that, Michael. You've said it perfectly.
Yeah,
The idea that gender is a construct and you can be whatever you want
right,
to be
right,
is now ingrained in our culture to some extent.
right,
And we have something like over 70 genders,
right,
two-spirit, furry. I mean, and when you start asking
right.
people what these things mean,
They
what
don't
does it
know.
mean to be a gender? What does it mean to not
Right.
have a gender?
And they come back to how you feel.
Now you may not even be aware of this, but this will probably, cause a few people's jaws to drop.
Yeah.
There's actually a surgical process called nullification. Have you ever heard of that?
This is in your field?
And yeah, it's in plastic surgery where,
What's that?
they operate in order to eliminate all evidence of sex. That is,
No.
they not only do they if you look at a Barbie doll
Yeah.
and you look at the anatomy of a Barbie doll, that's
Yeah.
basically what they're looking for. They're looking for no evidence, no
No.
external genitalia,
Ugh.
they basically, the reality is you have to have an orifice from which to pass urine,
Yep.
and you have to have an orifice for defecating. But beyond that, they don't want anything there that smacks of identification
Wow.
with any sex.
That's terrible.
And to me, I don't think you can possibly get anything more sick than something
That's
like that
sick. That's totally
to
sick.
completely reject your humanity to the
Wow.
extent that you don't want to identify as one sex or the other.
That's
If that's
insane.
not mental illness, I don't know what mental illness is.
It is. And so here's I don't know if you were a member also of the AMA, which I think is maybe a third of physicians or part of that. This is crazy. So here's the AMA supposedly having some vague relationship to science or medicine. Um, and I'll give folks the link here. This is crazy town. This is, I mean, I love your commentary on this. I'm just going to give folks the link. So here's from the Civil and Human Rights Policy Department, conforming sex and gender designation. So the AMA supports every individual's right to determine their gender. Like what? And they're saying government ID should reflect how they feel about their gender, including non-binary and whatever else they feel that day. I mean, your quick take on this, Rick.
Well, it's a total rejection of basic biology, basic facts.
Right.
The
So and what's
In
the deal?
medicine,
Yeah,
there's things that are clearly male and female. You're never going to worry about a male patient coming to you with a
menstrual problems.
ectopic pregnancy. So, if someone comes in and they claim to be a male and their belly is swelling,
Yep,
and they're biologically a female. I mean,
right,
if you don't consider the possibility of a pregnancy,
right.
that would be malpractice.
It
But
would.
if that person in your mind is totally male because they say they're male, therefore they can't possibly get pregnant, then the
Yep.
ramifications are just all over the place with this.
Yes.
Um,
So this is 2018, Rick, AMA, and quote, given the medical spectrum of gender identity and sex. Like, what are they talking about? Like, what's gender versus sex in medicine or in biology?
they've always been interchangeable up until
Okay.
now. Now
Oh,
people are trying to dissociate gender from sex to say
oh,
that sex is what you are biologically, gender is what you believe you are.
how
So
you
you can be a
feel.
biological male and think
Wow.
you're a woman, but in the eyes of some of these individuals,
Wow.
that weighs more heavily than the biological reality. What you
Wow.
believe takes precedence over call it truth, call it biological reality, but call it truth.
Yep.
Uh, once you start doing that,
Truth is
you
subjective.
cease to be medicine, basically.
Right. I mean, this is like ACS territory as well. The medical spectrum of gender identity this is another phrase that comes up. I mean, this is crazy. Sex assigned at birth. Your quick take on that, Rick?
Well, sex is not assigned at birth. Sex is recognized at birth.
Oh, that's a
I,
great
I
way to
even
say it.
reviewed that
That's a
because
great way to say it.
99.9% of individuals that are born are
Yeah,
clearly one sex or the other. They talk
right.
about, the intersex. That's a very rare,
It's very
you know,
rare.
birth anomaly that does not, that individual is still one or the other,
They're
but
not
they may
half and
have some
half.
ambiguous genitalia.
Right, right.
Uh, but yeah, the idea that the doctor is assigning your sex at birth and could be wrong is completely counter to
Insane.
reality. And sex is established when the ovum is fertilized by a sperm, and whether it's
Right.
fertilized by a sperm with an X or Y chromosome, that determines whether that's going to be a male or female.
And just
So it's
for
not
our
assigned at
listeners,
birth.
Rick, just review that for us, Rick. X, Y, Y. Just review that for us. What's what?
Well, in all of medicine, going back as far as recorded medical history and the recognition of chromosomes, we know that a female has two X chromosomes. These are chromosomes that determine the sex of the person. Two X's is the female, an X and a Y is the male.
Right.
And that the sex is established basically by the sperm of the father. The
Right.
female always provides X chromosomes. The male provides either an X or a Y chromosome. And
Right.
so, depending upon which one fertilizes the egg, you're going to have a male or a female. Now, there
Mm.
are definitely genetic or chromosomal, I should say, abnormalities where you may have
Sure.
an extra
Sure.
chromosome, an extra Y, or an extra sex. But in
Right.
almost all those cases, that person is recognizably male or female.
Right.
It's not like there's any doubt or question.
Right.
I'd have to go back to my basic genetics in medical school to give
No,
you
no,
the
that's
exact
plenty.
example.
That's
Well, you
plenty.
have Klinefelters, you have Turner syndrome, you have some syndromes where there are aberrations in the chromosomes.
Sure.
But they're still, recognizably male or female, not something, there's not a third sex. I
Right.
mean, no one ever goes in and says, I want to be the third sex. They go in, they say, I
Right.
want to be the other
Right.
sex.
Right.
So,
But then they can't
there's,
even define it. Like, what's a woman? They don't have an answer. So
isn't
how are
that
you doing?
amazing? Isn't it
Right.
interesting they can't do that? They
Like
refuse to?
I'm a male. Oh, I'm a female today. What's that? Oh, well, it's how you feel. So here's AMA 2021 recommending removing sex from birth certificates.
I know.
But because
AMA
it
is a lost
fails,
cause.
it's
I
insane.
dropped the AMA long, long ago.
It's completely insane. And
The
then,
AMA actually came out when the American Society of Plastic Surgeons came out with their position.
yep,
The AMA actually briefly jumped on board with that
really?
and said, "Yeah," I said, we're rethinking this." I think they kind of
Oh,
went back to their basic premise, which you've just put up there, that
yeah,
they're still backing these things.
it's a
But
spectrum.
it gave them pause
Yep.
uh, when that happened.
So here's your
Um,
organization again, Do No Harm. AMA wants research to embrace extremist gender ideology. And and now you can't use the word, they don't want you to use the word woman
mhm.
because their gender identity is not known. There's no universal agreement. Use the birthing parent. I mean, Rick, this is
Yeah.
crazy. This is
Yeah.
absolute nut. This is
Well,
insanity.
it's the same thing. It gives you chest feeding instead of breastfeeding.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. This is great. Birthing persons.
There
I
was
mean,
a
this is
hearing
wild.
recently held. Are you aware of the hearing with the three leaders of UCLA, UC San
Oh, I
Francisco,
heard
and
about that.
yeah, the dean of University of California, San Francisco,
Yep.
made a comment about the comment was the vast majority of pregnancies occur in women. So one of the interrogators
Like
among the
100%. Yeah.
the congressman said, "Well, can you explain that? Who are the other people that are getting pregnant if it's not women?" And this, it was embarrassing. This was a pediatrician,
Oh no.
an academician, head of
Wow.
a major elite medical school, could
Yeah.
not give a straight answer. He kept
Wow.
and the guy kept pushing. He says, "Well, who else besides, you know, women get pregnant?" And the
Hmm.
guy finally says, "Well, a trans man."
Mm.
Oh, you mean a biological woman? So a trans man is a
Oh,
biological woman. That's a woman that has
right.
decided that she's a man, but she can
Right.
get pregnant. Of course, now you have to say he can get pregnant
Wow.
if you're going to be buying into the whole thing. So,
Right.
I mean, yeah, they twist themselves in the knots to avoid making very simple statements that are obvious to anybody with a basic level of intelligence
Wow.
and common sense.
Wow.
It is embarrassing. It's embarrassing for medicine. It's embarrassing for them. It's embarrassing for their institution.
Right. I'm going to give folks the link to that video if they want to see. We won't take time with it now, but it's about a 5-minute clip, and it's crazy town. I mean, this is
It,
insane.
it
So,
really truly is.
and so let's see. I just want to finish up a couple of things I have picked out for you here. This is also from City Journal that the discrimination, the reverse discrimination in medical schools, discriminating against, white students, I assume, is still happening. This race-based admissions is still happening. We talked about that.
Ian
And
Kingsbury, by the way, the author of that
yes,
article,
yes.
he's the head of research for Do No Harm.
Oh,
And he's done a
okay.
lot of if you go to Do No Harm's website, you will see a lot of the resources.
Oh,
They
great.
put out a lot of position papers and topics and all sorts of things
Right.
on DEI and gender affirming care.
Oh,
He's
great.
really excellent. He took apart the whole idea of racial concordance. I mean, he
Mm,
blew it up with a systematic review of all the studies that purport to show that you get better care if the doctors of the same race.
wow.
So yeah, he's
Wow.
very, very good. By the way, that ugly racial concordance rears its head again
Yes.
in surgical education.
Oh.
The American College of Surgeons recognizes there are deficiencies in surgical training, and that
Mm,
young surgeons are sometimes not qualified or don't feel qualified
mm,
to be able to practice independently. So one of the solutions has been to try to pair up a young surgeon with an experienced surgeon,
mm.
whether, in real life or virtually, so that they
Right.
have someone to go to that can mentor them. Okay.
Sure.
So the ACS believes that the best mentor for a young black surgeon is going to be another black surgeon.
No. Ah,
So they're carrying over this
that's
racial concordance, even to
crazy.
that extent of
Wow.
mentoring, so that I'm not as qualified to mentor Black or Hispanic or Asian surgeon because I can't
Wow.
possibly identify with
Wow.
whatever their experience
That's
is
insane.
in life and culture and whatever else.
Right. Wow. Well, you were quoted here in this article in let's see, this organization, the Tradition, Family, and Property, American Society for, yeah. And you were extensively quoted in this article, as the lead, bringer of sanity to this whole HCS issue. So I wanted folks to have that article. It's a very good article. And
I'm very impressed, Michael, with your ability to pull this stuff up so quickly.
well, I
Are
did
you
a fair
doing this
amount
on
of.
the fly?
Oh, well, it's a mix. I did a fair amount of prep because, you're kind of a big deal and I wanted to make sure I was
Oh
prepared.
gosh, I
Um,
feel like I'm a little fish compared to someone like Donnie Vance with his resume, for Pete's sakes.
well, anyway, it's an important subject to me and I wanted to make sure, but yeah, I
I
can find
appreciate
stuff
that very much.
on
Thank
the
you.
fly. No, thank you. This is amazing. And just to let's see, I think this is the last thing I had for folks. This is from Yale. No, the woke central at Yale, and and they were basically whining that they had to return to merit in medical school admissions, and that this Supreme Court ruling that we had, in 2023, actually caused merit to be more of a thing. So this whole article, which folks have in the chat, is Yale School of Medicine whining that they had to return at least a little bit to merit and competency, and
Isn't
not,
that
oh,
awful?
you're black, you get in. So they were kind of whining in this whole article that, oh, now we have less black people getting. I mean, not this, I mean, again, if you, colorblind admissions should be the goal. We want the best doctors, the best surgeons, the best whatever, whoever's the most qualified and competent. I don't care what color your skin is; it's irrelevant. It's like a character over color, as MLK has said. We really need that in medicine. I don't care. I just want the best surgeon. I want the best physician. I don't care what they look like. Like, who's awesome, right? And so here's Yale whining that they had to actually at least a little bit, return to merit as a factor. So Rick, I just wanted to give you a chance to make sure anything, I want to make sure you feel complete for today. Anything else you wanted to share with our audience to feel complete for today?
Boy, no, I'm so grateful for the time you've given and for the references. I mean, I didn't realize there was so much out there, to be honest with you. You do these things on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, and you
Yes.
sometimes lose track of the cumulative effect of all the things you have done.
Yes. Yes.
My father was a engineer for Pan American Airways, and
Wow.
he
I
was his
remember Pan Am.
oh yeah, he had a wonderful career, and he was always a student all his life. He did a lot of excellent writing, and he always had concerns about what was going on in the world. And I remember telling
Oh.
him one time, Dad, you've done the work. You get a chance now to get off the playing field and get up in the stands and simply watch what's going on because you've
Oh.
done your part.
Yes.
And I look forward to the day when I can do that, when I can sit back and not be involved and engaged and just say, okay, I did
Right.
everything I could.
Right.
And right now, my whole focus really is on trying to do what I can to restore medicine to a point where I can be proud of it again. I'm not
Mm.
there. I don't know if I'll be there in my
Right.
lifetime.
Right.
That's a very sad commentary on the state of medicine and something that
Yep.
I devoted my life to.
Yes.
I have a daughter who's a doctor, and her husband is a
Oh.
doctor.
Oh,
Excellent
wow.
doctors both.
Yes.
Would love to give them a plug.
Please.
But they are brilliant. They are caring. They are everything a doctor should be.
Hmm.
But there are all those things not because of, but in spite of the current systems.
Oh, and
The
they had a
current
great
system
role
does not
model.
encourage them to do the things that need to be done to be a good doctor.
Right.
Corporate
Well, they had a
medicine has
good,
become.
Rick,
Yeah,
they
we
had a
didn't
good
discuss
role
corporate
model.
medicine, did we?
What's that?
We didn't discuss corporate medicine. That's a whole new kettle
Oh,
of
well,
can of worms, I should say.
why don't we bookmark that for a future show, if that's okay?
That could be an entire show in and of
That's what I
itself.
mean. Yeah, let's bookmark that for another show. And your daughter and her husband had a great role model.
But my point was, I really want to be able to look back and say I did everything I could to leave medicine in their hands better than I got it. If I
Mm.
can do that, I'll have done my job as a doctor.
Mm.
I think I can do that better now with my advocacy than as a clinician. And that's what
Oh,
drives me.
okay.
That drives
Okay.
me today is that's why I'm so happy to jump on a show like yours or to
Yeah.
write an article and get it published or to
Right.
put out a book or something or
Right.
however the case may be.
Yes. Well, and I had the because we cover like massive amounts of controversial subjects on the show: vaccines, COVID vaccinations, vaccine mandates, all kinds of things. And one of the things I wanted to ask you just popped into my head: are you more free now to say what you have to say now that you've retired?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. How
I have
so?
heard from so many people that, like I said, I don't get a lot of public affirmation. I get a lot of private, but people tell me
Okay.
privately, I love what you're doing. I agree with you. I'm not in a
Wow.
position where I can do that. I'm still working. I'm still part
Wow.
of an institution. I'm in
Mm,
in a very, very woke institution. And if
right.
I speak up, I risk getting my head chopped off.
Wow.
So yeah, so I have a great deal of freedom. My wife described it as I've lost my filters. I
Oh,
don't
good.
I don't have a lot of filters anymore.
Right.
I can
Well,
say what I think and not worry too much about the blowback.
well, that's great. We had a Christiane Northrup, who was a famous author, OBGYN, and she kind of felt what was coming in this medical censorship of physicians, and medical lawfare against physicians. And she gave up her license. She didn't renew it because she knew they were going to come after her if she kept saying what she was saying or wanted to say. And so she's like, you know what? I'm going to take this off the table because I don't want to be filtered. Just like you said, I don't want to be filtered. I want to just say what I have to say because it's remarkable. We've had Peter McCullough on the show twice, and he lost all of his appointments once he questioned COVID response and the safety of the COVID injections. He was a Baylor. He was all over the place. University of Michigan, Baylor. He got fired from everything, and because he spoke out as he was like the most published cardiologist on the planet right now, or one of the top two. I mean, hundreds of publications in the cardiology literature. Very respected guy, and because he was so high profile, they just canceled him, like they did with you, in your organization, basically silencing you. So I'm glad you feel free to speak and are unfiltered because your message is so important. And so I just wanted to close our time with just a kind of a quick review. I had sent this to you of some of what we talked about here and just my ideas on this, and then we'll be done for today. And I'll give you a chance to add anything you want to add. But just some current thinking. I've been thinking about this for years of what woke means. Profound narcissism, how I feel is the greatest truth. Moral relativism, there is no objective truth or reality, only my truth. Objective facts, reality are irrelevant. Men can become women, women can become men. Not just transvestite, wear whatever you want, behave however you want, but you can't change your gender. There's 47, thank you, pointing out 70 genders. Cultural Marxism, white males are all oppressors. Everyone else is an oppressed victim. Your social standing depends on your intersectionality, how many victim groups you're part of. There's a lot of like lazy avoidance of personal responsibility. It's always externalization of responsibility. The problem is in society. The problem is never with me. It's never my fault. It's always some external thing. Collectivism, you talked about this. Group identity, who you are as an individual is irrelevant. It just matters that you're black, for example, or you're a female, or you're whatever. Everything is seen through the lens of race, gender, and sexual orientation. This tribal mentality, no diversity of thought. We talk about DEI, diversity. There's no diversity of thought. There's no ability to dialogue, discuss, disagree. If you disagree, then you're a racist or misogynist or transphobe or whatever. And all these ad hominem attacks rather than just discussing issues. This obsession with this transgender thing, which is affirming mental illness, claiming that sex is subjective. All of society problems are caused by you and me, Rick, heterosexual white men, or capitalism, or Judeo-Christian religion, and just Western civilization in general. And this Ibram Kendi style anti-white neo-racism, which is called anti-racism, is dressed up. Assault on children. We in Colorado, you can abort a baby at or past their due date legally, and that's true in several states. And 1% of abortions in the U.S. are late term, fully viable outside the womb. We've blown past, the first trimester limits in Europe, and then this surgical mutilation or permanent hormonal damage, turning children against their parents, assault on women, eliminating or editing history. And a lot of these folks are just very fragile. They need safe spaces, use my preferred pronouns, respect the pronouns. These are not robust, resilient people. They are so delicate and fragile, and the world can be hard sometimes, you know. And then the Kendi thing of more discrimination in the present and future is the solution to past. And then this revival of segregationist. These are just a few thoughts that I had on this whole woke issue, just to prepare for your arriving here on the show, talking about this woke infiltration, just to define some terms. But anyway,
I
for
like
what
that.
it's worth.
I'm gonna print that out and use that somewhere,
Oh,
somehow,
please do as much as you want, as much as you
with
want.
affirmation, but I'll be happy to do that.
Yeah, sure. That'd be great. Yeah, you have it in your email from last night. So, Rick Bossart, thank you. Any final thoughts to feel complete for today?
Um, no, other than, just I think that people need to start what we call the normies needs to start making their voices heard. The people that are normal individuals that believe
Yes.
in very basic things, man, woman,
Right.
a
Merit.
work ethic,
Yes.
personal responsibility,
Yes.
merit in life, trying to be excellent in all that you do.
Hmm.
I think that we have to start speaking up and not let others speak for us.
Hmm.
Hopefully, I'm
What
doing that a little bit. I will
you're an
tell you something
example of
about
that.
courage. I've been told that it's courageous for me to do what I'm doing, but I don't really think I'm that courageous. The people that are my heroes are just like the ones you mentioned, Peter McCullough, and the others of
Hmm.
his ilk that have basically sacrificed a lot and given up a lot
Yes.
to
Yes.
take their stance, to take a principled stance. And they, to me, are the true heroes today.
Yes. Yes. For sure. For sure. Wow. Wonderful.
Thank you for this opportunity. This has been fabulous.
Dr. Richard Bosshart, thank you so much. I agree. You are a courageous individual. You retired a year and a half ago. It will be very easy for you just to enjoy your grandkids and hang out with your kids and not engage with righting some wrongs and your entire profession getting dangerously off course, kind of headed towards a cliff, and you're trying to right the ship. And I, appreciate your service in the Navy as well.
Never
But
thought I'd be doing this.
yeah, so thank you for that. I mean, this has been said a lot of President Trump. He easily could have just enjoyed retirement as a billionaire and played golf, but he's engaging in things that he feels needs attention, and you're doing the same. Like, it'd be very easy just to enjoy retirement from a very, impressive surgical career. But no, you're staying in it and seeking to bring some light into areas that have gotten pretty dark. So, on behalf of all of us normies, just normal people who, believe in basic things that have been agreed upon for millennia, just appreciate you a lot.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick. All right. Well, thanks everybody for being with us today. I know we had an unusually long show. Thanks for hanging in there. And just a reminder to join us next, what is this? Next weekend. Herbal Summer School 2026. This is going to be a wonderful symposium, our 7th annual. And then also, please join us for this year, our 11th annual practitioner retreat and intensive here in Colorado. That's going to be a 5-day practitioner retreat at a beautiful retreat center, an organic farm, and regenerative ranch later this month. So please join us for that. We have a great program planned and look forward to seeing you there as well. So thanks, everybody. Blessings to you and yours, and we will see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.